Earlier today, a man drove through the barricades in the Capitol. He killed a cop. He got shot. He had a knife. And, all of this is still relatively breaking news. They're saying they believe it's not terror related, though many journalists are expressing skepticism. Not that it is or isn't, but that isn't it a bit too soon? And now we're getting information on the suspect, apparently a black nationalist, and that is from the New York Times. This is not just my opinion. They said that this man was a proponent of the Nation of Islam, a follower of Farrakhan, a vocal supporter, and they mentioned this is a black nationalist movement. Apparently he had posted something on Instagram or Facebook that indicated he was very much a leftist identitarian. And I'm not surprised this kind of thing is happening, but I'm still I'm a bit unsurprised that they're going to try and downplay the politics on this one, because things have already been a bit chaotic in terms of left-right culture war. And the establishment seems to be very much deferential to and protective of leftist extremism, as we've seen. So we're going to talk about all this, and it's very heavy stuff. We do have a bunch of other stories. Things are getting crazy in Crimea. I mean, this is just, it's heck of a Friday, right, guys? Joining us today is author, commentator, founder of Liberty Junkies, Julie Borowski.
Hello.
Do you want to just give a really short, quick introduction?
Hi, my name is Julie Borowski. I'm a commentator, an author, and owner of LibertyJunkies.com. I'm also on YouTube, Julie Borowski.
Cool, right on. And we got Ian.
Hello,
Chilling.
everyone. Thank you, Tim. Ian Crossland over here. Hi, everyone.
Oh, yeah. And you have me in the corner pushing buttons, as always. Sour Patch Lids. Lydia, technically.
Normally we open and it tends to be more humorous and jokey, and we let it draw out a little bit. But, coming up here, we always go through the day trying to figure out what we're going to talk about and what the stories are and what's interesting. And then you get something like what happens today, and it's scary stuff. I mean, in any circumstance, if somebody crashed a car and got into it with cops, we probably wouldn't talk about that kind of thing. But this is hyper political in a hyper polarized space. And there's just so much to go through. There's the establishment Democrat leftist type saying, clearly this was a white male. And it's exactly why Mitch McConnell was wrong. They should have doubled down security. And then you got all these demands for more security. So it's just going to get rough. Before we get started, I want you to consider one very important thing. First, go to Timcast.com, become a member. And YouTube absolutely frowns upon these kinds of conversations. It is this kind of conversation that got me axed on Facebook. No joke. When everything went down on January 6th, I did a video just basically saying, here's what's happening. And they told me, you're out and you're not allowed back in. And I okay, I guess. But if I'm going to report the news, I'm going to report the news. I didn't say anything against the rules. They just don't want that kind of conversation. So it's very likely YouTube does not appreciate this either. This is reality. When news happens, news gets reported, but YouTube wants to be the foofy, family-friendly, basketball dunking Minecraft website. I'm sorry, that's just not reality. And so long as we're able to, we'll talk about this stuff. So go to timcast.com, become a member, and you'll get access to exclusive members-only segments from the show. Last night, we did basically a full bonus episode with Michael Malice. He wanted to talk about success, where we're going and advice, and it was a really interesting philosophical conversation. Probably gave a bunch of very, very important advice, both from Michael. I think everybody had something to add. If you want to learn the secrets to success and hear our philosophies, our ethos, become a member, check out that segment. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. All right, we're getting serious now. This is the story from the New York Times. Suspect in Capitol attack appears to have been a follower of Louis Farrakhan. For those that aren't familiar, he is the leader of the Nation of Islam, who has repeatedly promoted anti-Semitism. The suspect, Noah R. Green, 25, was identified by two law enforcement officials and a congressional official. He was from Indiana and died after being shot by Capitol Police. On Facebook, Mr. Green had posted speeches and articles written by Mr. Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad, who led the Nation of Islam from 1934 to 1975, that discussed the decline of America. Two law enforcement officials confirmed that the Facebook page, which was taken down on Friday, had belonged to Mr. Green. Mr. Green posted on Facebook about his personal struggles, especially during the pandemic. Quote, "To be honest, these past few years have been tough, and these past few months have been tougher. I have been tried with some of the biggest unimaginable tests of my life. I am currently now unemployed, and I left my job partly due to afflictions." He also spoke on Facebook about the end times and the Antichrist. On March 17th, he posted a photo of a donation he made to the Norfolk, Virginia chapter of the Nation of Islam, along with a video of Farrakhan's speech entitled "The Divine Destruction of America." Later that day, he encouraged his friends to join him in studying the teachings of Farrakhan and Mr. Muhammad. The Nation of Islam is a black nationalist movement that has advocated African American self-sufficiency. All right, I've got a thread pulled up from Andy No, who's dug in a little bit to who this guy is and some of the things he said. And I want to point out something. The way the New York Times is quoting this guy as if we're going to look at his statements not that long ago. It was a police officer who was paraphrasing what a mass shooter had said. And he lost his job basically for this. He was attacked. They accused him of placating this evil man. Why is the New York Times, what's with the double standard? We get it, though. We see the double standard all the time. The mainstream establishment, corporate press, and politicians are deferential to left-wing extremism. They would come out in seconds condemning this and saying everything you'd expect them to say, terror, ban guns, all of that stuff, if this actually was a white person, as we've often seen. This time, though, many of these people did come out. They did say that. Now they're going to become very quiet now that we're learning who the suspect is. That's exactly what happened with Boulder, in fact. Now, Andy No posts about the suspect here, and I just want to point out a couple other things. He says, in his last Instagram post before the attack, he wrote, "The U.S. government is the #1 enemy of black people. We are very much seeing leftist identitarianism, and it's reaching extreme levels. When it comes to Antifa and Black Lives Matter, we've long seen what I refer to as like blunt force extremism, in that the attacks they engaged in weren't the most violent or most lethal, but they were consistent, and there were several instances of them. So when these riots start and they burn down buildings and they cause massive destruction, the loss of life is extensive across the country. But the media, as I mentioned, deferential. When it comes to these mass shooters, these are high profile, very acute instances where everyone's attention is just grabbed instantly. So when you're dealing with endless Antifa and Black Lives Matter violence, but on average, they're punching people and they're beating people, that stuff doesn't become national news. Now, as things become hyperpolarized, this may be a one-off. And hopefully this is just some sick man and that's the end of it. But it may be that things are going to get even worse from this. I know, maybe it's a bit pessimistic for me to say, but I can already see the demands that we ban guns over this, that we reinstate security around the Capitol, lock it down, send in the National Guard. Now, a lot of these people were saying this before they realized this shooter was actually a black nationalist. But we have this tweet from Rep. Ilhan Omar. She said the death toll would have been worse if the assailant had an AR-15 instead of a knife. Just completely unrelated to what happened. But there's already efforts from many people to weaponize this. So I don't know what you guys think. It's always hard to kind of segue into a conversation where we're dealing with such serious news topics and, kind of this hyperpolarization. But I suppose considering, we've all talked about this, I'm curious your thoughts, Julie, on the hyperpolarization, the conflict, the security state, and, everything's been going on.
Sure. I think there's absolutely a double standard. A few weeks ago when that guy who happened to be white shot up the Atlanta spas, people automatically said, oh, this is a white supremacist terrorist. Maybe, we don't know, but they were quick to jump on that. We don't really know his intentions. Maybe he was a sex addict. We don't know if it was Asian or not Asian, if it was just like him going after these women for being women and tempting him. We don't know. But as soon as he did it, it was like white supremacist, terrorist. But now this guy, who is, we know he's a Nation of Islam, which is a black supremacist, very racist group. Like everyone thinks they're racist. That's not a controversial thing. This guy went to the Capitol with a knife. He killed a police officer, and they're saying, oh, there's no terrorism. We see no evidence of terrorism. Like, it's been a few hours, people. Like, wouldn't you have to investigate that?
Spend a few minutes, maybe.
Yeah, they're just like, well, he was Islam. He was the Nation of Islam guy, so therefore it's not terrorism. We don't want to offend people. We don't want to say, make people uncomfortable. It's like, come on, it's been a few hours.
What's interesting is when that tragedy happened in Atlanta, I believe it was the police. I'm not sure. They said it wasn't race related, right? So here's what I find interesting. They came out and said, no, it wasn't. He was a sex addict. 2 of the victims were white. But even you point out we don't really know. Mm-hmm. We need an investigation. A lot of people on the left immediately said it was a race thing. Even when the police come out and say it's not. Now, I know, maybe it's a bit unfair for me to say this, but I'll speculate, and I'd be willing to bet on this. The left is immediately going to change their tune and say it wasn't terror, it was a disturbed young man, and that's the game they'll play. Unless they want to ban guns. You know, I think it's ridiculous that Ilhan Omar was like, what if he had a gun? What if he had a tank? I don't know. It's ridiculous. This is a tragedy. You can speculate whatever you want, but they're gonna do it because it's an excuse to gain power.
Absolutely, but he had a knife. He brought a knife to a gunfight. He got killed. That was dumb. It was a poor strategy, Tim.
Well, could it be suicide by cop?
It's possible.
Did
Yeah.
he ram? He rammed somebody with his car. Is that right? Is that part
I
of the
guess
story?
he rammed through the
Capitol?
barricade.
Is that-
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So he used a car and a knife.
Yeah.
You know what gets me about this Georgia thing? Is it Georgia? Is that where the guy murdered 6?
In the spas.
Yeah.
Like they'll do, if they're gonna do like tests or like investigations, and then in a year and a month they're like, okay, we figured out he was racist. We figured out he wasn't racist. Like, what difference does it make? That guy murdered 6 people. He was deranged.
Eight people, I think.
8
Yeah, yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. You want to call it terror or not terror? It was terrifying for those people. Maybe it wasn't political terror. What's the difference, man?
I agree. It's like hate crimes, right? Where they're like, we're gonna investigate your thought process before you committed a crime. It's like, dude, hitting someone's illegal. Like the reason why you did it. You know what I mean? The action is illegal. I can't read your mind. And they try to infer as to what you were thinking. One of the biggest reasons I have a problem with terror laws and hate crime laws is that they're going to be selectively used. In this instance, they're already saying it wasn't terror. Well, dude was a black nationalist who posted on Instagram that the American government is the enemy of black people. Are you kidding me? And they're going to be like, no. Look, I don't care if they do or don't. Just keep it consistent. I think this guy committed a crime. That's enough.
Let me see if I got this straight. So this guy was on Facebook and Instagram posting about how much he hated the U.S. government. And then he went to Washington, D.C. and rammed into the Capitol fence, and they're calling this definitely not terrorism.
That's an act of
Is
political.
that what I'm, yeah.
It is an act of political
Yes.
terror. I don't support these like terror laws where you throw people in Gitmo because of the way they were thinking when they did the crime.
Right.
He's from Indiana. He went to D.C. What was he in D.C. for? Was he in school? Or?
I don't know.
He was
Yeah, I'm
making
going
a
to look that
political
up.
statement.
Yes.
For
I think
sure.
so.
Maybe.
Why would he go to D.C.? That's a good point, Lydia.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So Glenn Greenwald called this out. We have this post from Politico. The suspect was not known to Capitol Police or D.C. police, officials said. Robert Conti, the acting D.C. police chief, said the incident does not appear to be terrorism related, and there was no indication of a nexus to a member of Congress. Glenn Greenwald responded, on what basis did the police pronounce the Capitol attack does not appear to be terrorism related? How was it remotely possible to determine the mode of the attacker this early, which, by the way, is what determines whether an act of violence is or is not terror? Politics. It's politics.
Yeah. it's
How long
definitely-
did it take before they finally banned Farrakhan off all these social media platforms?
I wasn't following. I don't know.
They got rid of all the white nationalists. Farrakhan was allowed to stay on. Twitter allowed him to say things that were overtly anti-Semitic.
And he's a supremacist, racial supremacist. Just
Yes.
happens to be a different race.
If
I
you
guess.
took quotes from Farrakhan and in any instance of the word black, you just swapped out white, you'd probably confuse people because they think it was Hitler. Just absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I'll say this. He should be allowed to be on Twitter. He should be allowed to say what he wants to say. Good. Because when he was saying this stuff, we all saw it. And now when the New York Times brings it up, we know it. And when we see the suspect, we know what he believed and who he followed. And that's creepy, creepy stuff.
Good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. But think about what happens when they ban this guy. The only reason the New York Times is like, they repeatedly promoted anti-Semitism is because of the news stories that erupted when Farrakhan would post these things or when these videos would come out. You get rid of that speech, you get rid of that, that ability to share information, and we'd be wondering, like, who's Farrakhan? I don't know what this is. It was a
Yeah.
religious fellow.
I think racists should expose themselves. Let them talk. We'll judge
Yeah.
them, hold them accountable. But yeah, don't ban them from stuff. I want to see what they want to say.
I think the issue, though, is that these, like, the ultra woke people, they're the racists. They do a really good job of masquerading as the not racists. Going around telling everybody that they're anti-racist. They got that book. What is it? Anti-Racist Baby.
Oh, yeah.
Kids books that are being made and tell the kids how to be a cult member and things like that. Well, they go around naming their cult anti-racists, and it reminds me of The Simpsons when Homer's telling the story about when he's a kid and they had the No Homers Club, and then he's like, "But you let in that other Homer," and they're like, "We're allowed to have one." Like they made the name specifically to address something they were didn't want. Anti-racist. And then they go around literally discriminating based on race. and encouraging overt hardcore identitarianism and anti-Semitism. And I'm just like, man, there's so many well-to-do liberals that are so obsessed with social justice narratives, they overlook the fact that black nationalist anti-Semites exist in large numbers with a massive following. And they're sitting here going like, but what about Trump supporters? What about them? We're going to do wave a little American flag around? I get it. The people at the Capitol, there's a decent amount of people that went crazy and stormed the Capitol. That was bad. But you compare that to everything we've seen and the strength of the movement from things like, Farrakhan. It's just not even a question. But that stuff's just, they ignore all that.
This actually seems to be a prevalent thing in the African American community, because if you look at the attacks, on Jewish people in New York City, majority of them are done by a certain ethnic minority. Shh. I know. You can't say it, but you can look at the videos and you can be like, oh my gosh, this is like actually a problem in their community. And I wonder if that is the influence of the Nation of Islam. I don't know.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think that's why the Atlanta spa shooting got so much outrage, because it was a white dude. And I think they were secretly happy that it was a white person to say, oh, these white people hate Asian people. Honestly, I've never met a white person that hates Asian people. I love Asian people. Right. I wish they would move in next to me. I want my kid to go to their schools. I love Asian people. I think it could be a problem in the black community. I've heard there's tensions between the Asians moving in and having like stores and like liquor stores and convenience stores, and they think they're making profits off the black people. I don't know, that's not my community, but I've heard there's tension there. But they want to focus on, oh, these white people hate Asian people. I don't think that's really a huge thing.
It's when you look at the rules of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, et cetera, you're allowed to disparage white people.
Yeah.
I like outright. Like they've even talked about how, I can't remember which platform it was. They said, you're allowed to make disparaging comments on traditionally non-marginalized groups of people or whatever. Like we know what that means. And so, thinking back to like old comedy, it was always safe to be like, oh, okay, white people,
white people crazy.
Yeah, you can make fun of them. And I understand the idea behind it, right? Mm-hmm. The left would tell you it's like, oh, there's white privilege. Yeah. And because of that, you're punching up, which is fine, but punching down is wrong. But that means because of these rules, you can't have very real conversations that are important. You mentioned the gentrification problem. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely very prominent within left-wing activist circles and within Black Lives Matter. For instance, and to clarify too, what Asian means in many of these communities is not like Chinese or Japanese. It's Indian as well. It's Middle Eastern. So when I was in Ferguson, they burned down a gas station during the Michael Brown riots. And I interviewed some of the people there. Why did you burn down this gas station? They said, because the Asian guy comes here and he buys a gas station in our neighborhood. Why is he making money off of us? He doesn't live here. So they burned it down. We broadcast that. That was on Vice. That's on YouTube. I mean, I don't know if they still have it up, but that's what they said. So there's very much racial tensions. When I was in Milwaukee during Black Lives Matter rioting, they straight up were yelling, get the white people, F the white people. And an 18-year-old white kid got shot in the neck. I grew up watching this stuff, and it's no surprise to me. But I'm curious, when I mentioned that I did a video saying I wasn't going to be covering what was going on in Milwaukee at the time because of the racial tensions. And I was like, for someone they perceive to be white, it's dangerous. This kid got shot in the neck, so I'm not going to stick around. It's remarkable. I did that video because I think I had like 20,000 subscribers. And there are people who follow me and they wanted me to post videos from what was going on the ground. And I said, I'm not going to do it. And here's why. And it was just to my followers. Well, the video ended up going viral and getting shared by a bunch of conservatives who are like, oh, look at this. This is, proof of something. And the left was like, Tim Pool only did that to grift. I'm like, to who? My 20,000 followers who I know and follow and comment?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
How dare you make money?
Mm-hmm.
Well, but right. But it's insane how like these things are real and these racial tensions exist. And there's absolutely racism in the black community, in the Asian community, in the Latino community, in the white community.
Towards each other as well.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Asians.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Hispanic people talk about each other. It's
just gossip. Yeah. At that level, but I don't know.
Yeah. So I feel like there's kind of like, I feel like we're in a cultural, the left is in a cultural Mexican standoff.
Yeah.
Where they're all there's just like piranhas everywhere. These culture warriors ready to cancel you the moment you say something that's cancelable. So no one will have honest conversations about their communities or other communities or racism because they'll get canceled the moment they do.
I hope I get canceled though, because Dr. Seuss got canceled, and his books are up.
That's right.
I have children's books. I hope I get canceled so I can go top
Yeah.
on Amazon.
What are
yeah.
your children's books?
I have 2 children's books. It's first one is Nobody Knows How to Make a Pizza. It's based on Leonard Reed's I Pencil, but I made it for kids about pizza.
Awesome.
Yeah, it talks about division of labor, spontaneous order, all those economic terms.
Cool.
Yeah.
So,
But there's
like-
no central planner making this pizza. It's people all over the world doing the tomatoes and the cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no one person who grows tomatoes, farms dairy,
Yeah.
and wheat,
Grinds wheat, yeah.
oregano, and then brings it all together with sugar. It's all different farms and different.
Yeah. You think
I
cheese pizza is really simple, but it's really complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if somewhere someone's actually decided to make a pizza farm. Like, let me just make all the things. We got cows, we got tomatoes.
I think you guys could do it.
We could,
about us.
we're on it. Yeah, no, it's a lot of work for pizza.
Yeah, and so I'll going back to the more serious conversation. I
Sure.
suppose the left is all they're all staring at each other, and I feel like most of these people. Actually, let me stop. Leaked video came out. I just saw this on Twitter. A teacher, one of these teachers in LA, and they do this woke stuff. Apparently, forgot to turn off Zoom, and then went on like a racist tirade.
Yikes.
About this other black family and the way that she perceived black people and the way they acted. It was crazy to hear this. And people are sharing this being like, these are the people teaching your kids woke critical race theory trash.
Spicy.
Overtly racist. They know they're racist. They're pretending not to be racist, but they're super racist. And then it's really funny because then you'll get Black Lives Matter being like, yo, these white people are racist. And we're like, stop saying everyone's racist. But they're literally pointing to these like urban leftist, critical race theorist people too. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, those
They're
people are
racist,
racist.
yeah, for sure.
But that's what they're like behind the scenes, and they don't say it. So I feel like they're all sitting there, like it's like that Key and Peele segment where he's sweating like crazy, just like standing there, and that's what all the many of these racist leftists are doing, waiting for one person to just say the wrong word. Wimixin. An X. How dare you? That's offensive. Women. Aha! I got you now, and they're all just hitting each other. So they don't have any real conversations about stuff.
I think it's intentional. Today has been very exhausting in that if you look at what's happening across the world, we'll probably talk about later, Crimea, in China with Hong Kong and Taiwan, Russia and Ukraine. Like now they have the Americans all stuck in this paralyzed fear state. So like we're not going to get involved. That's what they want. If there's going to be an invasion of Crimea and Ukraine by the Russians and an invasion of Taiwan and Hong Kong by the Chinese, they don't want the United States to react in a cohesive manner. Mm-hmm. And if this is the stuff we're focused on, we're not going to.
Bingo.
Yeah, it feels like in many ways the establishment has just decided, okay, wokeness is our path, I suppose. Which it feels that way because from the intelligence agencies to the military even, the embracing, like the chief diversity officer or whatever,
Yeah.
of the Pentagon.
Amazing.
You kidding me?
Cancel.
Why would there be a movement, an effort in the federal government to divide this country?
That's a bad sign.
Why would the Americans be intentionally dividing themselves?
It could either be outside influence or it could be a form of like cultural apoptosis where like one cell is no longer needed in a system, it destroys itself. So like if the United States has become vestigial in the human experience, that we're just ending our own experience for us.
I don't think so.
I hope not.
I would say
I'm
this.
just saying what it could be.
If this is the case, we're conquered.
Exactly.
But okay, listen. People say, "Oh, I hate division. I want it to be unified." But people, I think, secretly love division. I make commentary. If I make it very divisive, people will eat that up. People love to see their enemies,
true. Bench Pure
we
owns.
talk,
Yeah.
to own the libs. We got to own the libs and all that. I think people like the division. I think they like to see their enemies hurting.
They want war. They want conflict of
Yeah.
some sort because people
People
strive
are
for
bored.
purpose.
They want something.
Yeah, but we're supposed to own the communists. It's supposed to be like own the commies.
Yeah.
Make that anti-commie stuff and then make fun of the communists and the concentration camps. Instead, we're ripping at each other. So if these other countries engage in some kind of conflict, if we really do escalate in the South China Sea or in Eastern Europe, the U.S. is everyone's fighting each other. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is we need to be like, hey, everyone in America, we come together and we respect each other. We're all Americans first. We're not this race first or this identity first. Instead, the prevailing ideology that's infected all of our institutions, from the news media to schools and now the military, is divide everybody up based on immutable characteristics and some other self-identified characteristics so that we are as fractured as possible. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, any strategist is going to be like, that's a terrible idea. So then when conflict arises, we're too busy fighting ourselves.
You know, they want, as infantry, they want you like an infant. They want your mind clear.
Ooh,
they don't want you to have all this social order.
Don't pull an AOC on me. There's a surge at the border. They're not insurgents.
Infantile. They want to wipe your mind clean of your past identity and make a new one that is synonymous with all others, and that's why you're part of this infantry.
No.
Yeah.
I disagree. Look, man,
you're born and you're birthed into the port.
The people who are fighting in a conflict, who are unified, who know who's on their side and knows what they're fighting for. And often we have corrupt officials and institutions and governments that manipulate the goodwill of the people who are willing to fight and lay their lives down for the right cause. They get manipulated and they get exploited. And that's kind of what America's been doing for quite some time, especially in the past several decades. But I have tremendous respect for those that are willing to do that. The problem is the corrupted system. More importantly, however, when I see the Pentagon chief diversity officer, and he got canceled because he had racist comments or something. I don't know.
Amazing.
Like we're infected. You know what I mean? Like we're fractured. There's no coming back from this, is there?
No.
You can't convince the cultists to abandon the cult. They go
there's
insane.
No coming back from this. We altered the globe, the way humans will interact forever.
Yeah, I thought maybe a silver lining of COVID was like people coming together, you know. No, the complete opposite of that happened. We had a common enemy here, COVID, and still, nope.
What I absolutely love about the COVID thing too, in terms of division, is that conservatives initially were like, you should wear a mask. And it was Fauci and the Surgeon General who were like, no. And conservatives were like, don't listen. And then it switched. And then what happened? Now the conservatives are the ones who are like, and the left is like, we're 3.
I was consistent on that. Okay,
there you go.
Listen,
there you go.
When the CDC and Fauci was saying, "Oh, don't wear a mask. There's no need to," I was saying, "You are liars." You can check my Twitter.
Were you selling Gadsden flag masks?
I was selling them, but
cool.
later. Okay. And then they switched their mind. It was really because they didn't want people to hoard masks. They were liars, and that was terrible because now people are not listening to them on vaccines or anything because they're liars. However, I still said, hey, wearing a mask is a good idea.
Fauci admitted this. In an interview, he said, we didn't want people to buy up all the masks when the medical professionals needed them first.
Yeah, so they're a bunch of liars, but now there's a bunch of libertarians saying, oh, you believe in these government conspiracies because you want to wear a mask. It's like, man, I'm consistent on this issue. Like, I'm not a child. There's such a juvenile thing. Like, if the government says something, I'm going to do the opposite. Well, a lot of times that is true, but not all the time. Like, use your brain, not just like reactionary, juvenile.
I got hit up by somebody when all this started going down with COVID, and they were like, yo, the government said you don't need masks. Quick, buy a bunch. And I'm like, you know what, man? It's so predictable. A bunch of the libertarian type people I know are like, I don't trust the government. They're saying don't. I better buy one. Yeah. And then when the government says to do one, they're like, you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
dumb.
Okay.
It's called obstinance.
Yes,
it's
is.
very dangerous.
You can't tell me.
Child.
Yeah.
It just.
Now I'll tell you that, like, I tweeted wear 12 masks and it got like 3,000 retweets.
Yes.
Like, just wear 12, and people were like, I don't know, 13. It's like, look, I picked an arbitrary number that was stupid.
Yeah.
You know, I actually have an idea. We should do this for like a bonus thing for the website. Just put on as many masks as we can.
See how many we can put on.
Yeah, just keep putting on masks.
Breathe
until
anymore. You're like, I can keep going.
That's huge.
Yeah, I don't know. You might get to a point where you're like,
too many masks.
yeah, like 12 might be the limit, I suppose.
Masks
know,
on
yeah.
your elbows, on your ears.
That's
I mean,
right,
your
that's true,
ears or have gas canals in them too. Do you need to mask your ears
eyes?
as well?
Gotta cover your eyes.
No, just your mouth.
Just
your nose.
Put a pillowcase over your head.
There you go.
You can still
Plastic
breathe
bag.
through it, you know, and then you're safe.
I saw a commercial for those big spaceman helmets that
one that we have?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
like
it's right
really
there.
taking it seriously.
Oh gosh,
The
of course
company
they
is.
are. We have it right.
Put your
here.
money where your mouth is, Julie. Here you go.
You want to put it on? Oh yeah.
You're gonna be
These are
healthier when
perfect.
that's over with.
You don't have to put it on.
You don't have
Are you gonna
to.
do
Oh,
it?
I was really gonna do it. Okay.
Yeah, they're great.
It's got
It's
it's
quite
got
an
it's got an
experience.
electric filter in
I
it.
wanted to
Pretty
try.
fancy.
I'll
You can try it. Well, you can try it if you want.
I'll
Yeah.
try it after.
I was so
Okay.
excited for these
Alien
things.
thing.
so cool.
Yeah.
It's just infinitely more comfortable wearing the space helmet than it is
And you
wearing
look
a mask.
I will
Cool.
say, as much as goofy as I think it is, it's not uncomfortable. I mean, it is uncomfortable because it's big and heavy on
I
your
gotta
head.
be honest.
Yeah, there
I'm
you
gonna
go.
wear that. You know why? I got allergies,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's got like a HEPA filter or whatever.
100%.
2 of them.
I
Cutting
can walk
onions.
around outside, and I won't sneeze,
Oh,
and
look
y'all
at
be
this.
jealous.
We're displaying the mask.
All right.
There it
And
is.
dude, my
Beautiful.
allergies are bad, man.
Really?
It's like, yeah, because all the trees are exploding, and it's basically you're getting all this tree spunk up in your business.
It's true though.
I cut back
it's
on
like-
sugar and stopped
It does
getting
help.
allergies.
That helps. Yeah. It
I
actually
like
does.
it. My allergies are gone. I used to get horrible pollen allergies. I started drinking water, cut out soda.
Water. Yep.
Yeah, and
It'll
I
help.
no longer am allergic to pollen. I can smell it. If I take a huge whiff of pollen, I'll feel it tickle the back of my throat still, but it's like dehydration. It dehydrates the nasal folds. So I drink water, it kind of absorbs the pollen.
I read on this website that if you eat worms,
Oh,
like
yeah.
parasites, then you'll get cured of your allergies.
Oh my god.
Maybe it was just one of those crackpot hippy dippy websites. But what it was saying was that actually I probably saw this on Reddit because I don't read any crackpot hippy dippy websites. But it was basically saying that you have 2 different immune systems, I suppose, one for parasites and one for pathogens or something.
Oh, interesting.
But because we've cured ourselves and like eliminated parasites for the most part from our diets, we just have this like crazy immune system. That could just be a bunch of bunk nonsense from Reddit. Probably. I don't know. Maybe someone knows better, so they
Did
can
you
tell
try
me.
it?
No, not me. But back in the day, they used to like tapeworms for diets. You would
yeah,
like
I
take the
know.
pills. Is that true?
wow.
That's true.
I think so.
I
I
read.
gotta look that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
know.
curious.
Yeah, and it was like tapeworms. Well, you'll lose weight quick.
They
Oh,
used
boy.
to bleed people to try
Yeah,
and
that's
heal them
true.
of illness. They'd
Yeah,
cut their
yeah,
cut
yeah.
their legs and get out the
Dude.
bad blood.
Yeah,
Do you
gross.
remember that product from like the 2000s where you would take a pill and then you couldn't digest fat and you
yes.
just crap it out?
I remember that.
So gross.
Maybe was that? I remember a
what it's
lot of
called.
diet pills in the
Yeah.
80s.
And it's like it would cause your body to not digest fat, and so you would just like expel it.
It was like Dex something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Dex
Gross.
something. Yeah, I
Do you
don't
remember
know.
that?
No.
I think you know, when you,
She's like,
No.
I don't know.
I thought you said-
I wasn't alive.
you said
much
something
in the
earlier that I
80s.
thought was kind of profound. Is that people need conflict?
I do think they need conflict. I think people secretly like conflict.
Yeah, it's like have you guys seen Wonder Woman,
Not
Yeah.
the new one.
the new one with Gal Gadot?
Yeah,
No, not 1984, like
No.
the good one that
Oh,
came
okay.
out.
the actual good
I
one.
always
Yeah.
have-
Where
Love
so that's basically it. Like she thinks that if she defeats the god of war Ares, the war will stop. And then Chris Pine's character is like, dude, people fight, man. Like
Yeah.
there's conflict. You can't do anything about it. And then it's like Ares, all he does is whisper in the ear. He doesn't make the war. He just, nudges people in the right direction to, excite that conflict.
And like if he wasn't around and it just built and built and built, then it might explode into some giant gorilla conflict. I'm gonna move this gorilla, but some giant like life-ending conflict. So maybe a little bit of conflict frequently is healthier than letting it build up.
Bottled it up. It didn't just automatic. Yeah, just a little bit.
I mean, that's
Just
part of why
get some
relationships I think
stress
are
out.
like,
Yeah.
you're married. That's being in relationships. A lot of like people love that. And there comes with
Yeah.
conflict.
You know what I found today? The rage rooms are coming. Where
What's
you
that?
go into a
Break stuff?
room, you break stuff.
Yes.
It's kind of like, escape rooms are coming a thing. There's rage room now where you have a hammer and they let you break whatever you want in this room.
Interesting.
So you get some stress out,
Yeah, that would feel-
COVID related stress. Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. That's
I
fascinating.
think it's cool.
I play a lot of games to get my conflict resolution out of my system sometimes, but it's not really physical. It's mostly mental. So
I didn't know about this rage room thing.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, we got
There's
this. I
one
just
in
pulled this up
Baltimore,
from
I think.
NBC. Why
yeah.
a rage room might be the key to venting your bottled frustration. But rage rooms are not appropriate treatment for everybody. No, I couldn't handle that. That's crazy to me.
That's
That'd make everything
chaotic.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
I would not
say-
enjoy breaking stuff and like going outs like that.
Really?
Yeah,
I kind of would.
I know. Like, hey, everybody's got their own different way of doing things.
They actually say about catharsis that it's not necessarily good. It can make things worse. One of the things that I'm starting to wonder during the course of this conversation is that maybe because we're not in relationships, we're not married, and we don't have families, we
don't wanna break
I mean,
stuff,
yeah,
right?
it's not that you don't want to break stuff, but you don't have like the rock tumbler effect of being in a long-term relationship where you're just kind of like knocking the rough edges off the other person constantly, and they're doing the same for you, and maybe that bleeds to our emotions being bottled up and us yelling at each other.
No, I was just thinking that because of something you said earlier when you were talking about just being busy with your family, because it's something we've absolutely heard from a lot of other guests and a lot of our friends where it's like, oh man, with the school, like we've been so wrapped up, I haven't been following the news all that much, because I got 2 kids or whatever. That's what I hear a lot of. And so I'm thinking right now, what would end the culture war? Seriously, just end the protests.
Make some babies.
Yeah.
Get something to do.
Because then they would have no choice but
You'd
to
be
be
so
wrapped up
busy,
in
yeah.
family.
Yeah.
And
Nothing else matters. Just your family. Yeah.
they'd be
Make some
productive, they'd be
babies.
working,
Care
and they'd
about
be
the future.
occupied.
Yeah.
Idle hands are the devil's playground.
Correct.
But I suppose we should say idle nethers
Yes.
are the devil's playground.
Idle.
Funny.
Get it done.
Yeah, that's right. Keep
No, but
going.
I guess that's not the issue. I think, people actually, no, that is the issue. Yeah. I was going to say maybe people are still hooking up, but they're not.
They're not having babies.
No, they're not even hooking up.
That's true too.
yeah.
you're
Like
right, yeah.
overwhelmingly Gen Z is just like,
Oof.
virgins.
A bunch of prudes.
Yeah.
No,
they're
no.
They can't.
yeah.
COVID. I think of chemical castration, not really castration, but like all these weird new food chemicals that get added and
possibly,
created in
yeah.
laboratories. All these new sugars, sucralose,
Drugs,
aspartame,
yeah.
high fructose, and
Yeah,
but it's
but
making
look-
people's sex drive go down. We've heard
Low
testosterone
sperm
levels.
count.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
but Ian, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so you go on these things about sugar, and then you make the assumption that these things relate to these other problems. When
Could be a
if you
factor.
actually look at the data, the reason for this has a lot to do with social media and
yeah,
dating
that too.
websites.
Porn.
All of it together.
and
Yes.
porn.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Now COVID, but
Yeah.
it was even before COVID. But COVID now, it's like, oh, I can't even. That person's might.
Oh,
be
well, that's
tainted.
illegal
I
in the
can't
UK.
even- So
COVID?
what?
Dating in the UK.
Is it really?
Yeah.
What
yeah, it's a
happened?
crime. You can't have sex in the UK. It's illegal.
What?
What?
It is.
You
Let me
gotta-
repeat this. It is a crime in the UK to have sex with a
Is
person,
that including all the Commonwealth? or
unless you're in
just-
a relationship with them. I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think
What
Carl
the- I'm
Benjamin
gonna look this
sent it to me.
up.
This is headline news.
What
to me.
is
How
happening?
are they
Right.
enforcing that?
Right.
huh?
Seriously.
I saw where they suggested.
Yeah, Reuters. This is from June 2nd.
What?
This is from last year.
What?
British government faces mockery over coronavirus sex ban
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
knock them too.
Oh
There you
my
go.
God.
Yeah.
for
how do you
keeping
enforce
people
that?
safe. Under amendments
Well,
introduced
that's
in
very
English rules
nice
on
of
Monday, no
them.
person may participate in a gathering which takes place in public or private and consists of 2 or more persons. Britain's tabloid media cast it as the bonking ban. What
Love
this
it.
is about making sure we don't have people staying away from home at night.
Uh huh.
So 2 or more people. So 2 people can't be alone together.
That's
is what they're
right.
saying legally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, look at this. Like, pull up the Google thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
October, Reuters, UK bans sex between government aid workers. October 16th, sex ban. England's COVID tiers. October 25th, UK's sex ban explained. June 4th, coronavirus sex ban.
What the
Dude,
heck?
like the
January
UK
2021.
has gone
Yeah.
like
Whoa.
has gone full,
There we go.
full.
No sex for you.
No sex.
Wow.
Jeez.
Could you imagine if like Joe Biden came out and was like, my fellow Americans, we're making sex illegal.
There'd be riots.
Come on, man. There'd be riots.
Huge riots.
Dude, this is it's creepy, isn't it?
That is dystopian.
It's I'm shattered. It
I'm
might sound
horrified.
hyperbolic. I'm not literally. I don't think I'm shattered, but
Yeah,
my
you see it in
DNA
one
is
piece.
shattering.
Yeah, what
Like
the
I
heck?
feel shaken with this news of Russia and Ukraine, and then this social war thing is like. I don't know what to do.
I could have sworn I read something that was sent to me by Carl Benjamin, where it was like the UK says you can't have sex with somebody, and then also it was just like some high-ranking government official was telling people to just go like crank it out themselves.
Oh, that's right.
You know,
yeah.
I read some good recommendations where you're supposed to watch your partner jerk off in front of you, but not get close to him.
for
okay.
Yeah, that was a recommendation from the government.
That's weird.
we're not family friendly on Friday night. I
Yeah, I
suppose.
guess
I'm
not.
sorry. I'm sorry, guys.
No, I mean I
just
brought it
started
up.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's
YouTube, don't
it's
ban
like
me.
the ultimate authoritarianism, I suppose. That
Yeah.
if like we're like
Yeah.
social media is a problem. It's making young people not have families,
And then suddenly we're like, oh.
and then they have no purpose.
yes, it's true.
You know what's really funny? Is it because I don't have kids? See, it's my own fault. I've been talking about how millennials and these generations have no purpose. So I did this video a while back about how Jordan Peterson provided purpose to many young men. Find the heaviest thing you can carry and carry it. And then wokeness was the purpose for these leftists. So you had these young people who are sitting there like, why am I alive?
Yeah.
And then like hitting themselves in the head screaming. And so they searched for anything. And Some people found wokeness. It's almost like you guys ever watch Underworld?
Yeah.
No.
You never seen it?
Unfortunately.
You know where like the Corvid, what is it called? Corvinus.
I remember. Yeah.
It's like basically this dude's
I
got
tried to
this
forget
like
it.
immortality thing, and then one son's bitten by a bat and one son's bitten by a wolf, and then it creates the two different
Oh,
tribes,
yeah.
the werewolves and the vampires.
Factions.
So you have these people who like drift into one tribe or the other, SJW, anti-SJW, because they're trying to find some purpose in their lives. And, you know, like I mentioned, Jordan Peterson provided purpose to a lot of these young men. The left absolutely hated it. But then I realized that, you know, my perspective was lacking because I don't have kids. The real purpose missing from these people's lives is family,
Yes.
just outright. People before these generations didn't have idle hands, weren't desperate for a purpose. They had kids.
No, they had like 10 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My great grandmother had 12 kids. I'm like, whoa, how do you do that?
I know. It's crazy.
Now
I
it's
got
frowned upon.
one.
Yeah.
How's your life change? Like, how different is it? What have you? How's your social perception changed since you've been raising a family or raising children, a child?
The world scares the crap out of me.
Oh.
What aspects of it?
Just what kind of future my son is going to be into, and how can I change that? And I think I've changed my commentary a lot, where I've been, you know, I want to make a difference, a positive difference in people's lives, where before, you know, I was a little bit trolly. I'm still a little bit trolly. But I feel like I want to make an impact in the world because for my son and hopefully future children's sake, I'm also scared of pedophiles.
Oh yeah.
I feel like there's so many out there.
Creepy people.
Yeah, one of
And
the
I
biggest-
did
The Epstein thing was a conspiracy theory. It was a conspiracy theory for years.
Until it
And
wasn't.
Alex Jones was mocked relentlessly for talking about these things. And then Mike Cernovich and a reporter from the Miami Herald, I'm not sure, started filing lawsuits. I think they then joined. I could be getting the story wrong, but they were both very much going after these files. And then all of a sudden it was like, boom, this is real. This happened. You know, the documents were there. And you were called crazy if you said that these high-profile people like Harvey Weinstein, for instance, granted he's a bit different, but still these these are extreme instances of severe predation. And you were a conspiracy theorist. It wasn't true. Even though like the crazy thing is like Seth MacFarlane, Family Guy jokes would make fun of Kevin Spacey and Harvey Weinstein. And you were wondering like, what do these people actually know in these industries? So definitely. But I also wonder if, I don't know, just what can you do for your son's future? You know what I mean? Let me get more nuanced. I hear a lot from people who have kids where they're like, I have to make sure I'm around for my kids, but then they're willing to sacrifice the bigger picture for their kids. You know what I mean? Like they're willing to say, I'll forego this conflict and risking myself to fight for these ideas because it's better that I can be there for my kids to give them food than it is that I defend a future.
Yeah.
So I don't know what do you think? What are you going to do? You seem to be,
What am I going to do?
yeah. Are you going to,
What about it?
I'm pretty much a stay-at-home mom. I think I sacrifice some stuff to be a stay-at-home mom, but I think it's absolutely worth it. I think I heard an interview before from a hospice nurse, and she said, what is people's biggest regret on their deathbeds? And they say, I didn't spend enough time with my family. She said she'd always heard it from men, but in recent years she's heard it more from women who chose to have a career and, you know, send their kids off to daycare. And I understand some people have to do that. Some people do not have the financial means. I understand that I am privileged in that sense. However, if I have the option to be a stay-at-home mom and be there with my kids, then I will take that. So I think that it's worth it. I think just that I have influence over my child, and it isn't just a stranger who's raising them, whose ideology I may not agree with, and who may be out of his life. And I'm always going to be there.
I was going to ask, are you going to send him to public school?
That's a decision we have not made yet.
Okay.
But he's only 3.
Mm-hmm.
I am homeschooling him, I suppose, even though you know, he's learning his colors and numbers and the dinosaurs. He knows quite a few of
cookie.
those.
have you given him any skateboards? Should give him a skateboard.
He actually has a scooter.
Ooh.
All right, I guess.
Okay.
He has like a dinosaur helmet with spikes on it.
Nice.
It's
Oh, I like
cool.
that. That's punk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Growing up skateboarding, there would always be these scooter kids at the skate park, and skateboarders were so annoyed because they'd get in the way and didn't know what they were doing. But I'll tell you the craziest thing is, like, I see this scooter kid at the skate park, and I'm like, these scooter kids, man, like, they're always in the way. I get it. They're kids. They're here. They're playing. It's fine. But their parents got to tell them about, like, teach them about etiquette and stuff. Then it's like 4 years later, and the scooter kid is now like 15, and he's doing backflips and like launching,
wow.
10 feet in the air. And I'm like, damn, the scooter kid's good now. This is rad. Like, now it's fun to watch. So yeah, scooter's cool. No, I think definitely physical activity, mental activity, and I'd say, dude, if it were me, don't put him in school, man. It's tough. That having your kid understand the system from within it is probably really important, but it can only be done with your guidance outside of the school.
Absolutely.
Like for me, I went to grade school, and they fill your head with complete bunk garbage, and then I would go home and have my mom be like, "That's not true."
She'd set you straight. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh. And then I realized what the system was, and sort of, but I was very young. But I was like, oh, okay, so this is not entirely legitimate. And so I would see how the system worked, but was constantly being reminded from outside of it what the system was. Also, I started working for my family's business when I was like 9 or 10 years old, because we had a family cafe. And then you hear real conversations from real adults. You deal with real money, and you have real experience in the real world. You go to school, and everything's so trivial and nonsensical,
Yeah. I think parental involvement is number one. I grew up going to government schools, but I had a family who's more conservative. My grandfather was a huge influence on me. He was more of a libertarian type, and he would tell me, just kiss their butt, get an A, and then just everything they say go out the other ear.
That's good. That's good.
So, yeah.
Philosophy.
Kind of like, it is a lot like military academy, like public school. Sit down, wait for the bell to ring, raise your hand, don't speak out of line, stand up. Some places have dress codes. Mm-hmm. I wonder if sending kids off to military school at the age of 4 or 5 is wise.
I don't know about military school.
Pre-military school, let's call it, like pre-K.
No, I think having good
Factory
parents,
school.
a good
parents
balance
is
between masculine, feminine, and physical activity and mental activity. Having a strong father and mother who can provide a good balance of perspective. Suppose not everybody gets that, though. You got to be lucky. Are you going to have a dad who's like a short, overweight middle manager who is deferential to everybody, and just whenever someone pushes him around, he apologizes and tells his kid to keep his head down and not fight back? Or is he going to be this like ripped lumberjack guy who's like, don't take nothing from nobody? And then he like, here's your shotgun. I know you're 7, but think you can handle a 12 gauge, son. And then you got to have the mom being like, don't give him a 12 gauge when he's 7. You got to have that mix. You know what I mean?
Good
You got to,
contact.
you got to give him the 410. Come
on, man.
Start small. Give a kid a gun that big.
Jeez.
No, I don't know. I think, it's tough, especially now because millennials aren't having kids. They lack purpose. And there seems to be in my opinion, dangerous cultural shift that has nothing to do with tradition or progression. It's not about being progressive or being a traditionalist. It's about, humans have kids. You know what I mean?
That's our purpose, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's purpose, but I know like when you have kids, your kids become your purpose. And that if you don't have kids, humanity ceases to exist. Your culture ceases to exist. Here's what's fascinating to me. When I hear from liberals, and their attitude is very much, who cares if America ceases to exist? Have you ever heard the sentiment from liberals? Like you see it on Twitter. They'll take like a quote from a conservative who's like, you have to have kids to preserve America and its culture. And they'll be like, why? And that's why it's really fascinating to see conservatives. This overlaps a lot with like immigration.
Yeah.
Concern about immigrants coming in and displacing American culture and getting rid of Christmas. Conservatives very much want to preserve these traditions in their culture. I'm actually not particularly conservative. I just think if you don't have kids, then there's no people. So,
Yep.
I guess we can build robots to replace ourselves. We're not doing that either.
Or live longer. Like we live to be 200, then we need to have like 40% as many children or something.
Maybe it's like what you were saying, Ian. Was it apoptosis?
Yeah.
That's for real, man.
It's like the mouse utopia. You get to a certain point where you're just consuming and doing nothing, and you just
before the Roman Empire crumbled, basically a lot of homosexuality started, or homosexuality spiked, I believe, and there was just a lot less making babies. I don't know. They were living in like the age of gluttony, pretty much. They had everything. They didn't care. They didn't want to serve in the military anymore because that they might lose what they had, and they loved their things, and then they
Gotta
got
have their
conquered
things, man.
from the outside.
Yeah, yeah. I think, people mention a lot the mouse utopia. Have you heard of that? They basically created this space where they put a bunch of mice or rats or something, and they gave them all food and said, like, no matter what happened, they never ran out of food. They never ran out of food or water. And so they eventually just, like, some stopped eating, some started eating others, some just stopped reproducing and just died. And, people wonder if we as humans are susceptible to something similar, where we've reached this point where people don't have to work. And I mean it. When you've got somebody who lives in New York City and their job is to write articles for BuzzFeed, I'm sorry, that's not work. It's not work. Work is like, I have to grow the food, I have to hunt, I have to build the house, I have to start the fire, I have to generate the electricity to power the machines, I have to find the energy source so that we can stay warm in the winter. Writing articles about celebrity gossip is not work. Oh, they'll say it's so hard.
Isn't that a good thing, though? Like, I look back, I'm a woman, obviously, but my great-grandfathers were coal miners and such hard work. I look back at my great-grandmothers, like, they had to cook everything from scratch and wash everything from, they didn't have laundry machines or dishwashers. And I think we're so lucky to not have to do all that stuff.
Going back to, yes, and so I'll attach that to what Ian was
Yeah.
saying about, you're talking about Rome, right?
Yeah.
Or Greece?
Well, both probably.
Yeah.
I think there's
Well-
a lot of vanity and gluttony at the end of both of those.
Here's what I see. When the culture is stagnant, or if the technology isn't fast enough, and if it's a weird hybrid moment of reaching that apex of technology with population to where the culture stagnates. Then once Rome collapsed, the technology persisted. A lot of this information persisted and spread out a little bit, and then started to improve, and people started to fight again and work hard again. And then you come to the colonial era, European colonialism and things like that, striving for more and no longer just being like, I want to be a layabout glutton because I have all this stuff. So the technology remains, things become easier, but then the quest reemerges. So maybe what's going to happen for us is that some kind of, massive, century turning or millennium turning, where we've reached this point where we as a culture are all gluttonous because technology has granted us this. After our culture collapses, then there will be a struggle again, but that technology will still exist. So then in another couple hundred years, it'll be even better for everybody. And then they'll start becoming gluttonous and lazy. You know what I mean?
I guess the question is, do we have it too good in America?
Yes.
Because my father-in-law is from the Soviet Union, and he, it wasn't such a great time in the Soviet Union. He looks at these American kids and teenagers and millennials having this depression and anxiety, and he's like, what the heck? You guys have pretty much everything you want. You live in nice places. You have all this food, and why could you possibly be depressed? Because they don't have a purpose, right? And I think, Andrew Yang wants to send everyone $12,000 a year. It's like, is that, I don't know. People can just sit back and relax and play video games all day and get a decent, apartment and have enough money. What?
Should we get offensive?
know.
Should we anger all the feminists?
Oh,
Are you prepared to make feminists angry?
okay, what are we doing here?
All right.
Let's go.
So I got this. This is actually fairly old. This is from Zach Goldberg. He's a great data researcher and journalist on Twitter, and he tweeted this. He says, overall, and with one exception, white moderates, those in the 18 to 29 age group are more likely to report being diagnosed with a mental health condition. The differences among white liberals, though, are striking. Almost half of white liberals in this cohort report a diagnosis. And in this graph, he shows us 4 different age groups, 18 to 29, 30 to 49, 50 to 64, and 65 plus. 65 plus from liberal, moderate to conservative, low instances of mental health. Mental health conditions. Low instances of mental health. No. The opposite.
We just don't have any.
This is amazing. Among 18 to 29-year-old white liberals, 45.9% mental illness. White conservatives, 20.9%. Less than half. This is amazing. even among the 65 and up, the white liberals are overwhelmingly more mentally ill than moderates and conservatives. Now we're going to offend the feminists. Let's break down let's break down a little bit these demographics, because Zach Goldberg gives us another one.
He goes there.
He says, some of you asked for it, so here is the last chart broken down by gender. The biggest gap with age X ideological group is between white liberal men and women in the 18 to 29 category. That's right. White liberal women between the ages of 18 and 29 have a 56.3% instance of being diagnosed with a mental health condition. White liberal men, 33.6. Among 30 to 49-year-olds, white liberals, women, 39.7, men, 29.7. And it's very, very similar, but even among white conservative women, 27.3% in the 18 to 29 age bracket. Now, the first thing I'll say is, I think the age thing shows us a generational shift in mental health diagnosis. Someone who's 65 probably was not diagnosed with conditions when they were young, and if they're older, don't care to go to the doctor and actually get diagnosed with this. The difference and the important factor is the gap. Among white liberals, 65 and older, it's almost identical, 15.2 to 15%. White liberal men and women, 65 or older, have similar instances of mental health issues. So there is something creating a massive gap between white liberal Gen Z millennials. And I think I know what it might be.
What is it?
Not having families.
Yep.
Not having relationships, not necessarily families, not necessarily kids, but no relationships. And I particularly think no kids. And I wonder if, and you can give me your opinion, and Lydia as well, because you're the ladies in the room. We've had other people on the show say that the reason women are unwell and unhappy and depressed is because they're not having children.
What do you think, Julie?
Yeah, what do you think?
Maybe.
Sorry, I hope you don't mind me asking. Were you ever like super depressed? Did you find this to be an issue for you before you had your kid?
I actually got a lot of anxiety after
Postpartum
postpartum anxiety.
yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think with older people, I think there was just a stigma against reaching out and getting therapy and all that. With the younger people, I feel like being a liberal would be so hard, because if you don't have kids, like you were talking about, you're focused on all this other stuff, and a lot of stuff is just out of your control. Like the liberals are very focused on like climate change issues. I know that's a huge one with them, having climate change anxiety and just, all this racism and stuff, and it's out of your control, where I think conservative people are kind of more focused inwards and on the individual and on their families, where liberals is like, I want to save the world peace. And it's like, no, there's Ukraine and Crimea and all this stuff, and you can't do anything on an individual level about that.
That is such a good point, because you're right. Conservatives do focus on the individual level. And that means they do things like make families, they have kids, they focus on their work, they find things to do that are meaningful, and they don't tend to stress too much about stuff that they cannot have any possible control over, like global warming. When it comes to the older people, a lot of them probably did struggle with this stuff, and they probably just learned to live with it.
Or
and maybe
keep
never
it
got
hush
diagnosed.
hush.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
you're
just don't suck it up.
You're
Right.
you're
Stiff
destroying
upper
the
lip.
family.
Exactly.
We don't want to think,
Keep it together.
Yeah.
But then like the whole family thing, I definitely think that the fact that women aren't having children is incredibly depressing to them. I just want to throw my 2 cents in there, because I think that's probably one of the biggest problems that we face.
You know the meme about, you guys ever watch Archer?
Yeah. Oh,
No.
yeah. I love
don't.
that show.
No.
I don't think
What's
I'm
wrong
more
with you people?
I'm just not intelligent enough, I feel like, to get it.
You don't
not
have
a
to be
smart
intelligent,
show.
trust me.
I just play video games.
There was that episode
Monotonous.
where
Such a good show.
I can't. It's been a long time since I watched Archer.
I just rewatched it. Which one?
What's the name of the Alana? Is that her name?
Wait.
Ilana?
Lana.
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 Why did I
Yeah.
say Ilana?
Lana.
Archer keeps calling her baby crazy,
Yes,
and it's funny.
she is.
But it's like there's a joke that very much resonates with. I think 30 Rock did this joke. TV shows and culture have made jokes about women whose biological clocks are ticking and how they want to have kids. Men don't experience that. I'm wondering if that plays a role in why there's a gap between men and women, like a biological difference.
It does for me. I'm not in a rush to have kids, and if I was, I'd be in a completely different person. My goals and my behavior would be completely off.
That's dudes.
yeah. You have to
Yeah,
I
work.
can have kids when I'm 80.
That's a privilege. Yeah.
It's not as easy, but you can.
Yeah.
They found that men also lose fertility. I mean, later than women, but like 40s and 50s, and there's more of a chance of having a problem with the child.
It's true.
Yeah.
I don't want to destroy the male ego here.
No.
It is
doing
it is
this-
true, but the issue is that
More women, yeah.
if a guy's firing off several million,
Yeah,
each
yeah.
instance,
You want.
if 90% of those are just deficient,
Yeah.
he's got a couple that are working.
No, you got like millions.
Right.
That's a lot
So what
going on
happens
there.
is that you'll end up seeing, older guys have kids, you know, and for women, it's a lot different. I know it's like the craziest thing that this is an offensive topic, but it is like feminists. Whenever I talk about this kind of stuff, it's like all the feminists start lighting me up on Twitter. They're all angry. And I'm like, is it wrong to point out that they're advising women to freeze their eggs? I mean, do your thing, man. More power to you. I'm not-
It really works, freezing eggs.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of lying to women saying, there are instances of 40-year-old women having birth, but they're rare. Do you really want to take that risk? Probably
Well,
not if you really want kids.
So think about this, right? When we're talking about mental illness, I don't want to act like I am saying this is the sole reason
No, of
people
course not.
experience mental illness.
It's a huge factor.
But I'm saying I believe there's a huge factor in the fact that as a 35-year-old guy with no kids, I should probably start thinking about having a family, but I got whatever.
Your
I'm a dude.
sperm is okay, but are you energetic enough for kids if you're
That's a good
40,
point,
50,
yeah.
60 maybe years old? Because you saw my son, he was jumping up and down on those
fun.
feed bags.
I got
like-
energy for days.
Yeah.
Man.
He does this too. Tim
Okay.
does.
Yeah.
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 He's
yeah.
got this.
Yeah.
I think
I'm a crazy
Just
person.
let you know.
But the point is, I don't have to consider a biological limitation.
If you were a 35-year-old woman, you definitely would.
So I'm wondering if there are women who are sitting here, and you guys tell me what you think, when they're looking at the media saying, just freeze your eggs and work and be a CEO. And they're thinking to themselves, but I want to have kids too. And you've got a combination of mainstream liberal social stigma telling you, no, you can't take time off, and the physical realities of you might have to.
Tick, tick.
You could be a CEO later in life, though. Like, your kids are so young for such a short amount of time. Like, I'm 32. I have the rest of my life to work. I can be 40, 50 years old. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She's still working. So she got it all. Women, there's also the thing that women can have it all. Like, no, you can't. You can't have it all at the same time.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
You-
we have it backwards. And I do
Uh-huh.
think that you have a point because I've known so many great and amazing women who went and they raised their kids. They got them like up into high
Yeah.
school and they sent them off and they're like, and then they went back to school. A lot of them became nurses. Some of them became teachers and pharmacists and stuff. I was like, that seems like such a good balance because if you want to work, by the time you're that age, you'll know exactly what you want to do. Your kids will have a firm start in life and you'll be able to go forward.
Yeah, and you could have it, your career and your kids
Yeah.
at the same time. And you're not worrying about, I'm 35,
babies,
40 years old.
yeah.
I might have to get IVF, which is really expensive.
Right.
You mentioned your kids are really young for a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of this really funny story. This guy posted on the internet. He was like 25, and he went and visited his dad. Or it's like he was at his parents' house for the holidays, and out of nowhere, his dad walks in the room and just grabs him and lifts him up as high as he could. And he's like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And his dad said, "I saw a meme where it said,
The
one
last
day
time,
you lifted your child for the last time
Aw.
and didn't realize it." And then they both started laughing. Like his dad was basically like, "I can pick my son up whenever I want." But no, that's it's an interesting point too. Like, the people don't realize that you pick your kid up one day, the next day you don't, and then that may have been the last time and you never noticed. There's going to be a last time. And then so that dad walks in, he's like picking up his 25-year-old
Oh, yeah.
man of a son,
I love it. That's cute.
Do you guys think that there's like resentment between women and men? The women resenting the men their age that don't want to have kids and don't have to, and the women are like, but I feel guilty for resenting them because they shouldn't have to, and they're not biologically bound, so why would they? But then they're internalizing this resentment and lashing out against men.
I think there's some women who do, but I think there's some men who do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My bigger concern
For
is not
the-
like the individual. It's what we're encouraging and exacerbating in culture.
I would ask that because I think I have some deep resentment against women that want to have kids with me at my age because they are on a time clock.
Yeah.
I'm not, and I know they are, and I shouldn't.
It's hard.
Feel
The
that.
You
pressure,
feel the
yeah.
pressure, yeah. Well, I think that's why you more often see a younger woman and an older man. I think it kind of makes sense. The men at a later age are more financially
They're more
stable,
mature.
more mature,
That's
and
for
they're
sure.
better able to raise a child, where the younger woman is both more fertile. Okay. So I think that combination makes more sense. So I would say, if you're a young 20-something-year-old girl, probably don't date guys that are in their young 20s because most of them, you know, they don't want to have kids right now. They don't have to. Maybe go a decade up or so. That's just my opinion.
And now here's the really offensive part for the feminists. The kind of person who's going to be writing an article consistently or writing articles consistently is not likely to be, you know, a stay-at-home mom who's got kids and dealing with them. You tend to see the careerist feminists who are in these positions at media outlets with the time and energy to write these articles. So their perspective is that of one type of person, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As a stay-at-home mom, you don't really have as powerful as a voice, I would say.
Right.
Definitely.
It's really fascinating to see all these feminist writers, and it's no surprise then that many of the women who work in digital media are feminists because, you know, they don't want to have families, they want a career, and they want to fight for that. That's their opinion. That's why they're there, or one of the reasons. And they're going to write those opinions over and over and over again. Then it's interesting because I wonder how that affects other women who know it's like, hey, I want to have a kid before this age. But everything you read from every woman in a high-profile media position is saying, don't have kids, freeze your eggs.
I was thinking if my mom had focused all the energy she focused on me and my brothers into the world, it would have been very bad for the world because she was very neurotic, not in a harmful way, but neuroticism as a personality trait, overly just micromanaging and wanting everything to be perfect, and for me to not be exposed to the wrong thing. And like if she had been doing that to other people, I think that would have been devastating. So I see your point.
Interesting point.
I don't know.
These people are blogging as opposed to treating.
Well,
like
so when I look at this chart from Zach Goldberg, and you can see that consistently there's a gap between men and women, except for moderates between 50 and 64, men are more likely to. This is fascinating. Check this out. Among white moderates, men are more likely to have been diagnosed with a mental illness by about 1 percentage point. You want to know what I think that might be? 50 to 64 years old.
Divorce?
No.
war veterans.
Boom.
Oh yeah.
Vietnam. Korea,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Iraq at this point. The
Yeah.
first Iraq
Yep.
War in
Yeah.
93.
Yeah.
Jeez.
God. 20
Yep.
years ago.
Which was
Absolutely.
way more brutal than we heard about in the news.
20
by the
years
way.
ago. Some of these
Oh,
guys
yes,
might have
yeah.
been 30 years old, and they might have been had a career in the military, and now they're
Yeah.
getting deployed, and they've seen some stuff. But that's only one group. It's only moderates. I mean, among liberals, it's not there. Among conservatives, it's still
That's
women.
like 1%. Yeah. So.
But I wonder, why is it? And no matter what you say, you're gonna offend somebody. That women consistently report having more mental health conditions is because women are more willing to go to the doctor,
Yeah.
probably.
I
or is it
think-
because men are big and strong and you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't need to.
nothing
go
gonna
to
get me down. Depression.
Definitely
Oh,
not
I'll
that.
punch it out of myself.
Stoicism. Yeah.
I'll just forget about it.
Yeah.
Guy wakes up. He's like,
away.
I'm depressed today. So he punches himself in the face. And he's like, no, I'm not. Ugh.
That's how it works, right?
I'm pretty sure that would be a mental illness.
I think so.
Women are.
Maybe you should go to the doctor.
Yeah, I think seeing a therapist, admitting you have a problem is seen as a weakness to men.
I don't want to acknowledge my own
Right.
neuroses.
Who does?
I feel stupid when I do that, and I feel like I'm creating it when it wasn't there.
I think for me, it's more I'm too arrogant. Not in that I'm like, no one's going to tell me I'm weak. It's kind of like, no, I self-analyze and I self-diagnose, and then I try to assess and solve any things that I see in myself. So when I'm feeling depressed, when I'm anxious, when I'm angry, I kind of question and think about it and try and figure out what's conducive to a positive working environment or to my goals. And if this thing I'm feeling isn't doing that, then I need to navigate that myself. And I do, and it works for me. So
You're more self-reliant than a woman who may see a benefit in talking to another person about it.
Talking.
Yeah.
Or man,
Yep.
Or man, sorry. yeah.
self-reliance.
Yeah.
How do you build that trait up?
I don't know.
Practice.
Go wander through the woods for a few days by yourself and learn how to survive, I guess.
Did you in the early days
Responsibly
when
with
you were
with the
making
cell phone.
YouTube videos in the early days? Would you just hyper analyze your behavior?
No.
You never just poured over your videos and was like watching yourself and thinking like, oh, that I have that trait. I don't.
I can't watch.
No, it's
Yeah,
the comment
yeah.
sections that do that for me.
Yeah. Right.
Tim sure says listen a whole lot. I'm like, I
Don't
know.
read
I've learned a
comments.
lot about myself from reading the comment
I
section.
know. I learned
too.
stuff I never
Yeah.
knew.
Yeah, you've got a decentralized network of people talking about what you're doing wrong. It's great.
So great.
You know,
right, so, yeah.
when they're in good faith, but even when they're not, it's funny because there's a lot of people who will claim I say something too much, not realizing that there's like a period where for like a few days I'll say one thing too much, and then it goes away.
That does happen to people.
Yeah.
They go through phases of like sayings and stuff, or even like the way we talk, like accents. Sometimes your posture probably for a few days will be a certain way.
Yes, we all straighten
That's
up.
interesting.
Yeah, there's a period where I would say at the end of the day, like 10 times in
I
a
remember
video.
that. Yeah.
And then people are like, dude, you say at the end of the day all the time. I'm like, yeah, it's a good point. I should stop saying that. And then there was like when I was trying to correct it, I'd be recording and I'd be like, look, anyway, at the end of the day, then I'd stop and I'd be like, okay.
Self-correcting. I love it.
So anyway, and then I'd go and I'd chop it out,
Oh, nice.
do
So
a
I got a
clever
que-
edit so you can't see it.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So do you think this is why the APA thinks that masculinity is toxic or whatever? Because guys don't go to therapists because they do things like self-analyze and tend to be stoic and they don't really want to talk about their feelings? What do you think?
Probably. What's APA stand for?
American Psychological Association.
I think the reality is that there are some men who are just weak, pathetic, and they can't handle the realities. And there are some strong men who just don't need to be told what's wrong with them.
Huh.
I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, there are some guys that are stoic and calm and pragmatic and rational. And there are some guys who do need help, who feel like they can't do it because they have to emulate these other kind of guys. You know what I mean? So for me, like I said, I don't think there's any kind of sitting down and talking to someone about my feelings that's ever going to help me in any way. It would absolutely waste my time. And I'll be frustrated and angered by it. If I have an issue and I'm feeling some way, I have to like navigate in my brain and like draw it out, figure out what it is, what's bothering me. Okay, now we can move forward. Here's our plan. Sitting down and talking with someone would be like, I'd be looking at them going, you're going too slow for me. I need to solve this problem in 5 minutes, not an hour. This doesn't work. But there are a lot of people that do need that person. And they're scared to talk about it because they want to be seen as tough. They don't want to be seen as weak. They need to do it. People need to realize about the individual, man. It's about you. You need what you need. So I'll tell you this. The one thing you should always do is don't care what other people think about you. People are like, you went to the doctor? It's like, I did. I felt like I needed it. Then you should do it. You should absolutely do it.
So, you know, one of my favorite quotes from Marcus Aurelius is that even a soldier needs the help of his fellow soldiers. And I was thinking that, to me, speaks about the psychology of men even back in the Roman Empire. Like, this is something that he knew that people needed to hear, especially guys. Like, you have to put it in a way that guys understand and sympathize with.
I definitely feel like, for me personally, when I hear the narrative of guys being like too macho and not want to go to the doctor, it really feels like a woman's perspective.
Right.
Absolutely. I don't hear that from guys. I swear to God, in my life, I have seen a guy cry a handful of times. I've talked to my friends, and I've rarely, if ever, had a guy be like, I need help, and like crying about their depression. Mm-hmm. But I have had guys who've done that. I have seen people who have lost loved ones, who have lost, their dog or whatever, and it's devastating and they're in pain and they want to talk about it, or they want to be alone and just work through their feelings. But I definitely feel like, for me personally, whenever I hear this narrative, oh, so many men are hurting and they're too scared because they have to be macho, I'm like, I just think that women are more emotional than guys.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
I guess if you're talking to the constructivists, though,
Yeah.
this whole conversation is bannable
That's right.
because they believe everything's blank slate.
It's like they say there's no difference between men and women, and then they do the transsexual thing. It's like I just don't get it. It seems like inconsistent.
Should be a moot point.
So
right?
you're
like-
admitting that you're a bigot.
No. I'm just saying, like,
Those are
they're
the
saying
rules.
it seems like they're saying there's no difference between men and women. Women are not more emotional than men, and then they say there's a transsexual thing where you can switch genders because genders are different. And it's like,
Well, so
what?
so this is an interesting thing. You need to understand there's actually 2 generations of thought in the trans community. Mm-hmm. There's the binary trans and the non-binary trans. So there have been some very prominent trans women canceled, attacked and harassed by the Gen Z trans gender individuals, because in their ideology, it's gender non-binary, gender spectrum. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're transitioning from male, man to woman. You're literally just moving between this spectrum. So some people are gender fluid, which means they can trans back and forth depending on the time of the day.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other genders where they say it fits at some point on a scale of 1 to 1,000. I'm a 327 leaning, male or whatever. But for the older generation, it tends to be more binary trans. So some of the friends that I have were definitely in the category of more binary, and they genuinely believed there were only two genders, only two biological sexes, etc. Now, when those people go online and post these things, they get attacked and harassed by the younger generation that believes it's a spectrum. I think one of the interesting ways to describe the difference in the ideologies is the common the colloquial terminology: assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth. So it's in my opinion a strange way of looking at it, and it fits into this idea that male and female don't exist when in fact they do. Male and female literally exist. You don't look at a giraffe and then say we don't know if it's male or female because it hasn't told us. Mm-hmm. You literally just say, well, we looked at it and we can see it's they're
dongs.
Yeah, it comes down to like this argument about the nuance between understanding and how you quantify things. And it's not always easy to create a criteria for quantification. But the typical understanding, male and female, is a reference to what are they called? Gametes? Is that the right word?
Yeah, the sex cells.
The sex cells that they produce. And then whenever you say that, you'll get, one of these left individuals saying, so a person who can't produce them anymore is no longer, and you're like,
the exceptions.
There are some exceptions.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
But it's such a little.
But anyway, long story short, it's not there's no unified ideology in gender ideology. Okay. And so what happens then is like Twitter's rule set and YouTube's rule set doesn't fit either one. It goes for both, creating this fractured, all-encompassing and broken contradictory rule set in many regards. So it's very confusing to navigate.
Humans are animals. We always got to remember that. We're part of the animal kingdom. Always have been, always will be. And unless we evolve to a different species, but the Homo sapien is an animal. And when we're born, we have sex organs. Now, you can always re-identify gender and what that means. And I think they're, like you were saying, their terms of service are trying to acknowledge both. Like, you can still kind of have the biological argument, but they're trying to placate or make sure that people don't get hurt.
I'm sorry,
emotions aren't trampled on, or that people have the right to artistically express their gender beliefs and things like that.
I have a red line in this. You know what I mean? It's like civil rights for everybody. People should be allowed to defend themselves, to live, be happy, to be free from violence. If we're all paying taxes, then we should be allowed to share in the bounty of whatever those taxes are supposed to be paying for, even blowing up kids, right? Which is the bad part of it. But hey, that's a reality, and that's the kind of stuff we don't want to happen. The long story short is, I would love for my transgendered married friends to be armed to the teeth and buying their drugs with Bitcoin and be free from oppression from the government because they want to be in private on their farm. You know what I mean? Very pro-liberty, protect the people, let them protect themselves and let them do their thing. I guess for me, I have a hard line on this idea that male and female don't exist. Like, that's clearly just not true, and it's becoming this weird anti-science movement where I turn on the TV and they say outright, like, the assigned male at birth. Like, you weren't assigned it. You were like,
It's like red.
Maybe they could say identified male at birth. Maybe it would
Sure.
make more sense. Because I guess what they're trying to say is that there are some people who are intersex. And so if they're born and they appear to be male, a doctor could say you are when you're not. And then I guess identified by doctor as would make more sense.
Wait, why are we changing the complete language because of this small minority of people? Like, it doesn't make sense.
It could be that it's an evolution of our species, and now we're in the early ages of multi-sex organisms that are we're evolving into.
Oh.
The issue is authoritarianism. That's the only issue I have. If you try to force people to do things, but there's a range. The statistics show it's between I think it's like 0.6% to like 1.3% of people that are they don't fall perfectly into XX or XY.
Yeah.
And if we're then going to try and navigate how we respect 1.3 on the high end, or even 0.6, that's still a lot of people. And I have no problem being like, hey man, let me know what makes you comfortable. I'm here to work with you and things like that. The problem is the authoritarianism. So like if someone comes to me and just says, by the way, this is how I prefer to be addressed, I just be like, okay, whatever. If the government comes out and says you must or else, I'd be like, I don't know about that one. It is really weird, though. There's this case going on right now where a teacher refused to refer to a trans student by, I think, Miss, or I'm not sure. Maybe it was Mr. And then he referred to the student who was, assigned female at birth, as the nomenclature says, and got sued, got in trouble, got threatened, and then he filed a lawsuit saying it was free speech. I just find it interesting, right? If a teacher was like, I'm not going to call you what you want to be called. You know what I mean? Like regardless of whether it's a pronoun, what if the teacher was like, "Hey, dingus." It's like, my name's Bill. I don't care, dingus. I can call you whatever I want.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, not even necessarily humiliation, but
Disrespectful.
I get the idea that people are like, I believe in using language this way and forcing someone to change how they speak, because pronouns aren't someone's name. Pronouns are a function of language, not an individual. I just think there's also an interesting argument to be like, what if a teacher is calling you an insult? Would we be like, don't call them? What if he called you not even an insult and just called you like
the wrong name over and over again?
Yeah, and didn't care.
Acknowledging.
And then you kept complaining like, that's not my name. You know, I wish the teacher would get my name right.
They'd probably be reprimanded by the school, I would imagine. That's a good point. All
right, we're gonna read this article because we had this pulled up before, and
we never got to this one yet.
I'm gonna tell everybody right now before we read this article.
Oh, wait, yeah.
I'll tell you the one thing everybody we hear the most of from guests and in conversations. Not everybody says this, and it's a small minority of people do, but we've had people come in and say, I'm more than happy to do the show so long as you don't ever ask me questions about transgenderism or trans people. And I'd be like, I mean,
okay.
If there's news, there's news. If there's not, there's not. And I got to tell you, it's if someone comes on the show and they're like, I won't talk about this, there's no point in asking, because they'll just not interact with you, and it'll be a really weird conversation where you're like, so what do you think? And they just don't say anything. So it's like, all right, I guess. And the reason for it is almost no matter what you do, you get attacked when you bring this stuff up. Well, I don't know what else to do, but yeah, talk about it. We had the story from the New York Post. CNN ridiculed for saying there is no consensus for assigning sex at birth. The New York Post reports CNN is being ridiculed online for insisting there is no consensus criteria for assigning sex at birth, with critics telling the network to look just below the waist for insight. The left-leaning network statement was quickly shared online after it appeared in a news story Wednesday about South Dakota banning transgender athletes from women's sports. It's not possible to know a person's gender identity at birth, and there is no consensus criteria for assigning sex at birth, CNN's Devin Cole wrote. Critics quickly ripped the outlet for reporting it as straight fact, rather than attributing it to others and noting differing views. Quote, I've gotten used to a lot of woke craziness. Never thought I'd see biological sex in scare quotes, a Twitter user wrote. CNN isn't a news organization. They are straight up activists. Online media critic Lee Sabatka wrote, while conservative commentator Ben Shapiro said only an idiot would believe the network's claim. Others suggested a simple solution. I'm not a doctor, CNN, but if you look just below the waist, you may get some insight. And then they're just quoting a bunch of Twitter users ragging on CNN, but CNN literally did this.
When did this come out? When did CNN do that?
A couple days ago, last week.
Yeah.
I mean, this story is from yesterday, and we were thinking about talking about it, but a lot of people don't, want to bring it up.
It's a hot potato.
That's dumb.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
Can I talk about it?
No, biological sex is real.
It is real. It's how we make more people.
Yeah, it's you
know-
either got that or this.
I think one problem with this.
Well, hold on. To be fair,
Or intersex.
right. So
Very
it's
rare,
so
yeah.
that's the issue at hand, is that you do have a lot of people who are like, it's either that or this. Then you have people like Dr. Deborah So, for instance, who's very intelligent, saying, well, it's bimodal. There is an overlap, but for the most part, it's overwhelmingly, male or female. If you want to have like an honest, nuanced conversation, it's really difficult to have in hyperpolarized times.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, like I have a line, right? Biological sex is real.
Yeah.
To say there's no consensus criteria for assigning sex at birth, I don't like the phrase assigning it. That's very activisty. They identify you as, the doctor sees it and says, this is what the baby is. And they can be wrong, and they have been wrong. There's some prominent activists who are incorrectly identified because they were intersex. Like there's one woman who is actually biologically male based on DNA. And the issue was, I forgot what the syndrome is called, but did not develop, like the testes did not produce testosterone. So now they very much, this individual looks very much female, even though genetically is male. And so then when you have a doctor say that and they realize that's not true, it doesn't fit how they feel, and they actually want to be a man, like, yeah, that makes sense. These people are real. They exist. Making sure we protect the rights of all people is part of the conversation. But when you get activists coming out and saying, actually, there's no biological sex, it's like, okay.
What I got from this
There is.
this writer said it's difficult or challenging to establish gender identity at birth, and then immediately in the next sentence said biological sex,
Yes.
and as if they were the same thing.
They're not.
No, gender
Yes.
identity and biological sex are different.
Yep.
And they used to make that argument. That used to be their strongest case. They were like, gender isn't sex. Sex isn't gender. Who would ever possibly
that's what I
confuse the
learned
two?
in my college
Exactly.
sociology classes. And now it seems like it's flipped, where it's like there's no such
Interchangeable.
thing. Yeah.
I think that's due to the media. I think it's due to a bunch of really dumb people who work in media who don't understand things, who write about things and conflated
maybe
them and made the
so.
mistake. For real. So what happens is you'll get some like intellectual saying, well, biological sex does exist. Gender is the social constructs that have formed around the biological
That's what
sexes.
I learned.
And thus people could identify between any of, any in between or outside of gender. In fact, if it is a simple social construct, then certainly someone could make up their own social construct. And that's an intellectual argument. And then someone who works for like the New York Times or Huffington Post goes, biological sex ain't real. Because they didn't understand the actual argument being presented. Over time, it morphs into you're not male. So this is another issue I take when they say someone is like they're a transgender person transitioned to male or female. I'm like, no. Between man or woman. That was I thought it was trans woman, not trans male. I thought that was offensive to say. But it's really hard to keep up with. It's another reason why a lot of people just refuse to talk about this stuff. Because what you say today could be offensive next week. It could be the right thing to say today, offensive next week. Case in point, Wimixon. Do you know about Wimixon? Wimixon. Have you heard that?
No.
It's women with an
Oh,
X.
yeah. Okay, I didn't.
And
I've never heard it pronounced. I just saw
who
it.
knows?
So it's Wimexin. Wimexin. The X is supposed to symbolize the symbol for trans. And so they changed the O to an X. It might work in written language, but in spoken language, it's confusing, and people are like,
Yeah, I didn't know
Wimexin.
Yeah,
what
just
you were
now.
talking.
Right, exactly.
I've seen it on Twitter,
Right.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very online thing. Regular people probably don't understand. Well, when that word was made, it was appropriate. And then for some reason, a month later, it became offensive. A couple months later, some organization used the word and got attacked. How dare you use that word? Trans women are women, so you don't need to say Wimexin. Then a year later, they started using Wimexin again.
Ugh.
So it's like, no matter what you do, someone will claim, someone will say it's wrong. It's like I mentioned before, the liberal circular firing squad or Mexican standoff, where they're all staring at each other, waiting for anything they can use as an infraction. So people don't want to talk about this.
Importantly, I think don't ridicule it, and not publicly. If you're going to talk about it, do not ridicule this
Don't
stuff.
be
because,
mean to people.
Yeah, as easy as it is to be like, well, that seems stupid to me, so let's make a joke. Don't do it. It's not stupid to everybody, and it won't be. And in the future, it'll probably be more important to other people. So you just,
You know what bothers me about a lot of conservatives is their desire to be mean. Like, I'm smarter and better and you're dumb, so I'm not saying every single one of them, but I see it a lot, and I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like someone who's like, they would approach a story like this by laughing and ridiculing and being mean, and I'm like, dude, but you don't win arguments by doing that. A good example is when Milo Yiannopoulos fat shamed a guy at a gym.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
Unacceptable.
I asked him, I was like, why would you do that? And he was like, it works. And I'm like, it already worked. The guy's in the gym. Now you're going to scare him off the
Yeah.
gym. What are you doing, man? I understand that there are people who believe fat shaming works because it makes people want to lose weight and get active. But the guy in the gym,
He's already
you
there.
won.
Yeah.
He's doing it. He's fighting.
Not
That's the kind of guy.
nice.
Yeah.
It's beyond not nice. It's ineffective. Like,
I
what's your
know.
real goal there?
Counterproductive.
someone actually was saying that we were talking about something about mental illness and how we were being like kind of kind and like, people need help in society, but that I had been too hard on people that are obese and that I'm treating it like it's not a mental illness. And I think they might be right, because I've been, I'm a huge foodie and into sugar and
Make the best
dangers
bread.
of it. Make the best
True.
bread.
Everybody
The
comes here and they're
best.
like, what was that bread? Like, Ian made it. And they're like, wow.
And I'm like,
That's true.
obesity is a problem, and I do believe obesity is a problem, but I do not want to ostracize people that have that problem.
This is a guy, ladies and gentlemen, who complains about the sugar industry and then makes the best bread.
I know. What
A little
the
bit
heck?
of sugar goes a long
Come on,
way.
man. Ian,
People,
little bit.
Yeah,
it's like a fresh bread, and they cut a slice of it, and people are like impressed every time. And then you go and complain, but the sugar's bad, and you're the one giving it to
2
them.
teaspoons of white granulated sugar for 5 cups of flour. 4.5 cups.
Is that
of
your
flour.
secret technique?
It was actually from Paula Deen.
Oh.
I'll give you the skinny. That
nice,
recipe is
yeah.
a Paula Deen recipe.
Wait, was she the
Very
racist one?
Yeah,
Yes.
she was. Yeah. She's a
Paula
Southern
Deen
lady.
pizza dough? That recipe. That's
So
the one I used.
Super good.
you're a hypocrite and a racist.
Apparently, I support a racist. I didn't even know.
Oh my gosh.
But Ian, I wanted to ask you: have you ever watched My 600-Pound Life?
No.
I did, and I was really struck by the fact that I didn't watch it like as a show. That I wanted
I've
to
seen the
watch.
commercials. No, it's okay. I watched 90 Day Fiance. It's okay.
So I watched some of it for a speech that I wrote, and I was like, it's never about food. It's always about something else. These people are abused. They're being enabled. They've been manipulated. They're being like, their parents will go out and bring them to stuff because they can no longer leave their house. And it's like, it's not about food. The food is filling a gap. And we're lucky in America we can use it. We don't use alcohol like Russians do. But there's always a coping mechanism, you know?
Yeah, it is a coping mechanism, food. I can see that. You were talking about conservatives just being mean.
I want to clarify, too. I want to clarify real quick.
Yeah.
There are some conservatives that like being mean.
They want to trigger the libs and just do dumb stuff. Well, I think a lot of conservatives complain about virtue signaling, which is true. I mean, some stuff you just kind of have to roll your eyes at people, like, I'm such a great person, blah, blah, blah. But I think on the right, there's also vice signaling. I've seen it a lot over this COVID thing where people take selfies of them in the grocery store without a mask. And it's like, look at me. It's the opposite of virtue signaling. It's the same thing.
It is still virtue signaling, though. It's just for their side.
Yeah, I call it vice signaling because it's the same.
Look at how bad I can be.
Yeah, how bad I can be. Yeah.
It's effectively the same thing. I understand your point, though. Vice signaling, like when somebody goes on Twitter and just insults and berates somebody because the right is piling on. So I just am absolutely not a fan of that stuff.
Yeah, like the whole
being mean.
Like Meghan Markle thing. Like, I looked at this and I had no opinion about it, but I saw a bunch of conservatives attacking her, and I'm just like, did you care about this yesterday? Like,
I didn't, and I don't know.
Heard you. Yeah, and they just want to be like rude, I guess. And just,
I got hit up by Fox. They wanted to have me on. So a lot of people saw me on Fox talking about big tech and social media. There were some other instances where I've recently been on Fox as well, not on the TV, on like radio and other segments. And around the time of the Meghan Markle thing. And so I get an email from a producer and they're like, can you talk about this? And I was like, I don't know anything about the royal family. And they're like, oh, okay. It was, it's big news.
You have to have opinion on everything.
I was just like, I purposefully avoid nonsense. Like the royal family does not have any, like, it's celebrity gossip for Americans.
We fought a war.
Yeah, we fought a war to not have to worry about the royal family.
I wonder how frequently they hit up people and they're like, the answer is always yes if I'm asked to go on TV because it's good for my career, even if I know nothing about it. So you get a lot of these people just feigning, knowledge. At least you had the fortitude to acknowledge you weren't worth their time.
On this
you didn't seize the opportunity for your own selfish gain.
Yeah. For some advice, I guess, to say, there are a lot of people who absolutely are like, oh man, I can go on TV. Tell me what to say. I never do that. I'm like, I don't have anything to say about the royal family. I'm not interested. Like, I've been invited on a bunch of big podcasts. I say no. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? You give me something I can talk about, maybe I'll do it. Otherwise, I don't know, whatever. I think if people just focus on themselves and what they want to do and stay true to themselves is their better path forward. But going back to the thing about conservatives, we know that there are a lot of leftists who are virtue signalers who will mock and grift and berate people on the right or just not the left and lie about them in order to earn points. I think a really good example is this show. Exactly. I had a big argument with this friend of mine, and what had happened was I made a post about the Chauvin trial. Like, here's what happened. This is crazy. This is huge for the defense. The defense basically said George Floyd had OD'd before and had similar symptoms at the time of his arrest here. And we learned that, according to his girlfriend, the dude with Floyd was their dealer. So I'm like, this is huge for the defense, because third-degree murder in Minneapolis is if you provide a substance to someone that kills them, that's your fault. So that's this other guy's fault, which could present very serious reasonable doubt as to what happened with Floyd and who was responsible. And so, someone comes in and they say, oh, here comes Tim Pool's confirmation bias and all of his, cult followers don't want to read the actual news. And I had a conversation with this person. And I was like, you need to understand what happened here. You don't watch my show. You don't know the opinions expressed on this show. You don't know the opinions of the people who comment on the show. And you look at it and immediately assume if we are saying the defense got a victory, in today's hearing, you assume it's a bunch of Trump supporting, red hat wearing, MAGA flag waving people, when in fact it's a variety of people who are just paying attention. You come in acting like you know everything, and everyone starts trying to explain to you calmly, and you get angry. This is what happens for a lot of people. They walk into a room where people are saying, wow, the defense in the Chauvin trial, this is big. I mean, it's not perfect. And then all of a sudden they're like, what is this, a bunch of MAGA conservatives? You guys are all biased. And then when people try saying, listen, here's the guy who was the dealer. Here's what the judge said about the guy, about Floyd putting the tablet in his mouth. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I watched Rachel Maddow, so I know everything. Instead of having that rational conversation, they get mad and assert that they're right and you're wrong. It's a really amazing, thing. I think it's definitely a vice when people assume it's not me who's wrong, it's everyone else. It's like, yo, if everywhere you go you smell crap, take a look at your boot. Yeah, that's my advice.
How do you stay friends with people like that? Is that more of just like you're forcing yourself to stay social? Or do you feel like loyalty to them because you've known them for a long time?
I treat everybody with a certain level of respect. If there's someone I've known for a long time, I'm not going to treat a person better just because I know them. You know what I mean? I try to be fair. For someone I don't know, I suppose if like there were two people hanging on the side of a cliff and I knew one of them, like I'm going to save that person over the person I don't know. I guess it depends though. I mean, these are tough questions, right? Like, let me ask you, Ian, you see you're standing there and there's a cliff and you've got your mom hanging, but then you've got a 7-year-old girl hanging on the other side. Who would you save?
My God.
What kind of
It's a tough question,
is that?
right?
Yeah.
The personal desire to save your mother or
The potential. Of
the
young
potential
life.
of the child.
She would want me to save the kid,
Yeah,
Oh,
probably.
That's a good point.
so I would.
Well, there you go. It's not an easy question for everybody.
Yeah.
These are tough questions. It's like in Spider-Man, in the movie when he had Mary Jane and the school bus full of kids.
Oh.
He saved them both because he's Spider-Man.
That was my initial thought.
That's right.
Cheating.
So
Yeah, it's
use
not
your
fair.
web shooters
Yeah.
to save both of them at the same time,
Okay.
and we're good.
Got it.
Yeah. I don't know. Not easy questions, man. How about we go to Super Chats?
Yes,
If you
it is
have not
time.
already, my friends, smash that like button and become a member over at timcast.com because looks like we're not going to have the website up, but this is okay. There's actually a really obvious reason for it that I didn't consider. And you know what that reason is?
What's that?
Why the website will not be launched as of today?
Beta testing.
What's today?
April 2nd.
No. What's today?
Friday.
Friday.
Oh yeah. It's Friday weekend.
It's
Oh,
Friday.
Yeah.
Which Friday?
Oh, it's Good Friday.
It's
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
Friday.
Okay, it's a holiday.
It is
A
yeah.
lot of
Great.
people
Gotcha.
they were like, look, it's Good Friday, Easter Sunday.
Okay.
So it's a 4-day weekend. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody to work on Good Friday and through the weekend for Easter. It's like,
Yeah,
I
sure.
get it, man. So, but anyway, go to timcast.com because I think early next week, hopefully, but regardless of the format of the website, we are preparing shows and we want to get started on this stuff. Ian was talking about some developers and doing this open source technology and just kind of going crazy in building out technology and tools that are going to make the world a better place, but also making good content. We're going to do a lot, man. We're slowly seeding everything we need. We've got some people joining really soon to start producing more content.
Yes.
And it's a coming. So make sure you sign up. And don't forget to like the video if you haven't already, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this show if you really do like it. All right, let's see. We got a ton of super chats. As always, it seems like
thank you, guys.
YouTube has made it so I can't read the name of the first super chat.
Oh,
So
I can't see it.
can't read it. It says, suggestion. Imagine nerdy version of Jordan Peterson that analyzes cartoons, anime, games, and tries to teach important life lessons like that. Incredible editing to make it as epic and entertaining as possible. Tim, you have to check out the channel, The Meaning of Nerd.
Huh, interesting.
Oh, well, there you go. Snowboard Dan. Oh, this must be a mistake. He says, happy birthday, Ian.
Oh,
Oh.
thank you, Dan.
This
It is
nice.
Ian's birthday.
It is, ladies and gentlemen.
It is
What?
Ian's birthday.
42 years old on 4/2,
Oh,
which
nice.
I didn't
Wow.
see coming until yesterday.
Very
Oof.
cool.
And they said it's the meaning of life in
Whoa.
that one book.
It'd be funny if, like, after
Hitchhiker's
after the
Guide to
show
Galaxy.
ends, we like go downstairs, and all of a sudden Ian starts floating, and a beam of light
could
like
see
comes
it.
around him, and
I
his
could
eyes
see
are
it.
glowing.
That is going to happen.
And then he just
Okay,
starts
dude.
like firing gigantic lightning bolts and blowing everything up, and people are running and screaming, and it's
What's
happening?
happening? He said it would happen.
I feel like I'm wrapping the first trimester of my life right now, that I'll go to like 150 or 120 with all this life
Yeah.
extension stuff, and a lot of it's going to be like, it's going to be a different version of life, like an outer space, like a different
Hopefully.
weird.
You are a trip, man.
You just found this out. The
I
audience
did- I
is
just
like,
met
that's
him
Ian.
today.
Yeah. Someone just challenged me to a fight.
Oh.
Javon Cronin says, the only thing I have ever disagreed with Tim about is how you say McDonald's. Like, WTF is McDonald's, Tim. You don't know what McDonald's is?
Of
I guess
all
if you grow
things-
up in the city, we jokingly call it McDonald's. It's like meant to be a silly way to say McDonald's.
Not Sheriff, really? It's
Sheriff.
McDonald's, huh? Interesting.
Yeah.
Ah, like
Interesting.
Target.
Old MacDonald.
Yeah, Target.
Yeah,
Of course.
you know, it's a
fancy.
silly
Funny,
way to be
yeah.
like McDonald's instead of McDonald's. Good old, what is it, Scottish food?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, let's see here. Trey Allen says, I'm glad your Puritan capitalistic nature could not let you take today off, and we're all thankful, Tim and team. Yes, it's Good Friday, but I'm not. Good Friday specifically Catholic or
No,
Christian?
It's Christian.
Christian,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's the day before Jesus rose from the dead.
No, it's the day where he died.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
And then Sunday is
It's
where
a bad Friday.
So they
Yeah.
crucified him on like
Friday.
Wednesday, and they let him hang there for 2 days, and then
Yep,
he died. Is that
and
what
they
it
buried
is?
him.
dude
Yeah.
stabbed him.
Yeah, it's
Jeez, what
They
a
just-
jerk.
He suffocated to death on the
Yeah.
cross.
Is the Golgothan real?
The what?
The Golgothan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the hill?
Golgotha?
No,
the
that's
hill that Jesus
Golgotha.
died on?
The
What-
Golgothan
What is
I'm
it?
not
was
sure.
from Dogma, where what's it? Azrael summons the demon made of human feces.
No, that would be a no.
Oh,
Not
okay.
the Bible. Sorry.
I heard my last name Crossland is from Crossland Hills in England. I haven't confirmed, but I
Oh,
think it's
cool.
where they used to crucify people.
Interesting.
Yeah,
You should go there.
yeah.
Ah.
Find out the truth.
Crossland.
All right, let's see. Oblividan says Iowa Governor Reynolds signed constitutional carry into law today. Took too long, but it's nice to have a right restored for a change. Repeal the NFA. Wow.
Woo,
Always
cool.
amazing to hear about constitutional carry. That is an amazing thing.
What state?
Iowa.
Cool.
That's great. Remind me to visit Iowa. Walk around with a Barrett M82, carrying it, getting really tired because it's a heavy
Really
thing to carry.
Yeah.
And people are going to laugh and be like, I get you're trying to make a point, but come on.
Anyone can do that.
That's a
now.
grenade launcher, right?
No, it's an anti-material rifle,
Oh,
50
yeah.
BMG. Yeah, so, taking out helicopters and tanks and buildings, you know what I mean? When you need to.
Necessary.
Matt Burkhart says, hey, Tim, would you consider having Jonathan Wichman on your show? He's from Wisconsin, running for governor in 2022. Great candidate, center-right. He doesn't really have the resources to become a mainstream candidate. Perhaps we don't like to take suggestions because people then turn the Super Chat into a suggestion machine. But, we're always looking at people. Taddy Mason. All right. Taking time off from talking to Jerry says, happy birthday, Ian. Tim, love what you do. It's extremely important to promote people to think critically, but I'll catch the podcast in the morning. Got to get back to the jam night on ACAST. Hey, there you go.
All right.
Nice.
Thank you.
Ransom Puppy says, hey, Tim, just wanted to ask you if you've heard about the band Anal Nathrak. Their latest music video and Darkment seem to be very anti-establishment. I highly recommend checking it out if you're into death metal. Not really.
I like their use of language.
Not a big death metal person. I don't know what to say.
Creative.
Sam Ray. This is racist. He says Asians make far better stuff. Japan with Nissan, Toyota, Honda, Sony, Seiko, plus Tokyo is super clean and wish the general American public can learn more from their culture. Tim, do you have a watch collection? Seiko, I do not have a watch collection. Watch collection.
You're not wearing one
I
now?
will say Tokyo is awesome. Man, it's a really different culture, I'll tell you that. There's
I would love to go.
there's a bunch of I'll try to be family friendly. There are a bunch of businesses for men to relieve themselves in adult manners.
Oh, okay.
They're literal, like, I saw this sign everywhere when I was in Tokyo, and I was like, what is this? I was like, I didn't know what it was. And then my fixer, which is, a local Japanese woman, she was like, oh, it's, and then she explained to me that guys, every so often they got urges and needs, and they go in there and there's like used underwear in jars and like, boxes you could buy.
It's a different place.
They're
a different
also,
place.
with advancements in artificial intelligence and robotics, they're aiding
Thanks
that
for the recommendation.
industry.
Yeah. They are super smart.
Yep.
Robotically.
It's very different.
They have their own set of problems.
All right, let's see. We got too many super chats today. Too many.
You guys.
Conti says, Tim, us U.S. military just had extremist stand-down training today. Even though they talk about Antifa, BLM, and supremacy are extremists, they only show videos from C-SPAN from January 6th and some shootings that was done by white people. Weird. Julian Powell says, can you please stop commenting on the thoughts of the black community? None of you are black, and most of your comments just come from stereotypes and inference. None of you are black, so you couldn't comprehend black life. Well, that's exactly my opinion. That's why when we had a comment from a Nigerian immigrant, I said, I defer to you. I wouldn't know. I think there are a lot of people who do think they know on the right and the left and try and tell other communities what it's like. It's the weirdest thing. And it's the perfect example of one of the reasons I don't like what my serious problems with the critical race theorists is when I get some like uppity white progressive being like, let me explain to you what it's like to be a marginalized person. And I'm like, no. We don't do that here. You don't come to me and bring that to me. Sorry. But respect, Julian. Absolutely. Brother Francis says, hi, guys. Wanted to apply to work for you guys. It would be my dream career. I've sent some emails. Hope you guys can see them. Also wanted to contribute to BTC Monthly. How can we set that up? It's very difficult to do, and we haven't set it up. But Brother Francis, we will search for that email. Rosa Brand says, what used to be entertainment with books and movies, even video games, has turned into LARPing. That's what I saw in the last year's riots, kids running amok RPing. Mm-hmm. That's right. Doctor says, it's all play money. Shots on me tonight. While it's worth anything, I can make this back in experiences and hardships, all in the process of making friends and family. As always, thank you guys for doing you. And Ian, thanks for being the voice of unreason when there's too much of making sense.
Mm-hmm. Gotta shake it.
Right.
P. Diesel has a comment for you, Ian. He says, infantry comes from the French word infanteria, meaning foot soldiers, too inexperienced for cavalry. Oh, so there is perhaps a relation between infant and inexperienced.
Yeah, I should go into the Latin of that as well.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Arceon says, here to promote my channel, Arceon. I talk Catholicism, politics, and more. Hey, there you go.
Very cool.
Trent Lamalino says, hey, gang, love what is on the horizon, but make it a mandatory daily obligation to get Adam Curry and No Agenda is vital. Stay safe, John. Am I familiar? I don't know.
Adam Curry was like the founder of podcasts, I think.
Oh, interesting.
I'm trying to find a way to get a hold of it.
That's fun. John R. says, eating locally sourced honey will help with pollen allergies. I've heard that.
Interesting.
We're surrounded by farms, and we went to a farm and got a bunch of farm fresh meat. It is amazing. I got to tell you, man, if you've had that store-bought bacon, you ain't had bacon until you have real bacon from a farm fresh. It's legit. Put it on the grill, and it's just like, wow. Real food is always so much better. Character Holding says, think it was hookworms. They secrete an enzyme that pacifies the immune system. They live in your intestines, clears up allergies. Oh, maybe that's what it was. This is amazing. Ian, you were right. Nayrad Agava says, Ian is right. Infantry comes from the Latin root word infans, meaning infancy. It shows up later in the 1500s as infante, meaning foot soldiers too low in rank, too young, or too poor to be cavalry.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Well, how about that?
And we still use it. It's a different system now because those people could be cavalry, but they're put into the infantry. So maybe it's not about wiping their brain, but that's the...
And AOC wasn't wrong about the relation between surge and insurgent.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me more.
Surge meaning is the root word is to like a sudden flow, and then insurgent was to sudden flow
From the inside.
Yes. Well, so it was just like
flow from within.
The original word surge was just like the way we describe surge. It's the same meaning, and then insurgent was a reference to like
the action of
surging through. Yeah. So it became a reference to the people and the insurgents.
See.
So there's a similar root there. Baxter says, Tim, Strauss Howe is for people not well read in history. He references World War II, Civil War, and Revolutionary War, but conveniently skips over World War I, Napoleonic Wars, etc. This is always the case with these books. Strauss Howe is just the latest meme people in DC are gushing over because it's fun to think the world isn't so boring and we can predict the future. But you're right. It's probably true. Low and Light says, Tim, please have someone on that was there at the Capitol on January 6th. Let's see. You would then stop flipping calling DC a riot or a siege. That is offensive and BS. Well, I've seen videos of people at the front gate bashing the windows and then people fighting them. I've seen the videos of the people running in and clashing with the police, and I've seen the video of having the door opened. I think there are people who are there who only like walked around and didn't realize what was going on at the Capitol and think it was only the peaceful side. But we quite literally had, I believe we had more than one of the journalists.
We did. We had two. Yeah.
Yeah. Who were down there telling us everything that was happening. Yeah. Richie was on like right after.
Right. Yeah. The next day. Richie and Jorge, I think.
Sideways says, I'm 26 and single, so instead of kids, I get stressed out by building up and restoring, resto modeling old cars. The issue may be lack of hobbies. Cars are my kids. Or cats. Cats.
Don't recommend cats.
Everyone get cats. You can be a cat person. Mastermind says, Ian's words about Crimea inspired me to do my first super chat.
Oh.
That's
Absolutely.
epic, dude.
Very cool.
Crimea
Fascinating.
stuff's crazy, man.
I've been
Like,
thinking about it the whole night.
Russia is amassing troops. You were talking about this earlier.
Yeah. The Ukrainians just issued a draft on the April 1st. 16,000 or so Ukrainians are now drafted. They want to liberate, from what I've heard, they want to liberate Crimea. Russia's like, nope, we're going to send tanks if you invade us, because Russia thinks Crimea is Russian.
Yeah.
Ukraine thinks Crimea is Ukrainian.
Wow.
It's a messy situation, man.
Yep.
Corey Hill says, love the show, Tim. Please consider the legendary Mark Kern, a.k.a. Grums, as a guest for your show. He is a leader in pushing back against the insanity in the culture war and is a brilliant game developer. Oh, cool. And for those that don't know, if you've played World of Warcraft, I believe there's a ring called the Mark of Kern, or it may not be a ring, it may be just an item. It was named after Mark Kern, one of the OG developers of World of Warcraft, and Mark is rad, and I would love to have him on the show. I think I've dealt with him in the past periodically. We should definitely reach out to him and have him on the show because he's a cool dude. He's working on a new video game too, and we can talk about that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I'll look him up.
Razor Tune says 5 months ago I released my first game. I was hoping to bring some humor during the lockdown. It never took off now, and it may be too late. Maybe you could give it a shout out. Check out, what is it? Corona Run on Steam, 2D platformer. Interesting.
It's never too late.
Yeah, it's never too late. Maybe, people will find a fun game. Marcus Carter says, I'm a 37-year-old disabled combat veteran with a 3-year-old child on life support since birth. I just started a PAC, shorting DC, because despite my problems, they are nothing to the problems we all face together if we don't recapture our government. Visit shortingdc.org for more. Hey, good luck, Marcus, and thank you for your super chat.
Yeah.
Michael Schwobel says, old quote, you don't become an adult until you have people that you are responsible for. Definitely. Golin's Thop says, I will send my kid to school. I can teach my kid many things, but I cannot teach them social interaction. They need to learn to deal with all kinds of people, especially how to deal with jerks and difficult people. Yes. Okay, Rob Brown says, I love this chick. There you go.
Oh. That chick. Awesome.
Bonnie Bailey says, hugs Ian. Try to keep it together. You look so sad. I feel you, guy. Try to stay strong. Hugs.
Thanks.
I think the war stuff got you down. You were like really serious, or you're like,
Yeah.
the war's starting. China's going to take Taiwan.
You got me scared over here.
It's so representative
My
of World War
heart started
II.
beating.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, before the show, you were talking about this, and it's like a really scary thought.
Yeah.
If Russia makes a move on Ukraine because the ceasefire is over and they're amassing troops, the U.S. will absolutely prioritize Ukraine, and then China will immediately seize Taiwan.
And they'll point at Russia and say, hey, they're doing it. And then all the countries around the world that have a place they want to invade will invade it.
They'll be
That'll
like,
happen.
America can't stop us all.
And then the Russians and the Chinese won't fight each other at first, just like the Nazis and the Russians didn't fight each other at first until Germany invaded Russia. China is this imperialist monster, has been messing with Russia, may eventually invade Russia, and then the Russians will flip.
Hopefully it doesn't happen.
Hopefully it doesn't.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Zuevobro. Julie, it's Chris. Tell Alex I said hi. Otherwise, I love the show, Tim.
Who's Chris?
You don't know anybody named Chris?
I do, but I know
There
a
you
lot
go.
of them.
Julie, it's Chris. Tell Alex I said hi.
Oh, hi, Chris.
You're gonna get a text later, and you're gonna go, oh.
Yeah, I'm like,
You.
there's like a million of you.
Normies Get Out says mandatory military service for 2 years would solve this problem. Service guarantees citizenship. Would you like to know more? I would like to know more. I'm not convinced it would, though. I think it would make a bunch of rebels. If the government instated the draft as a mandatory requirement, you would end up with a wave of insurgents. Like, this is America, man. You got to realize, doesn't matter if you're left or right. There are people who are going to be like, government can't tell me what to do. People got guns, too. The draft, I think that the Vietnam draft, like, for the most part, worked. Like, most people were like, okay, I guess. But a lot of people were like, no.
A lot of people died, dude.
Like, in Vietnam.
Yeah,
You
they
know, I
were
know.
drafted. Yeah,
Right. A lot of people just said, okay, and went along with it.
but they didn't want to go. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't want to go to jail either.
Exactly.
'Cause
But
the draft is pretty much
did-
slavery.
they didn't resist. Yeah, definitely.
Well, some people did, but still. Like,
What I mean is most people didn't resist.
At
If the
beginning,
government
yeah.
if the government came out and was like, everybody drop to your knees, people would go like, okay.
because they don't want to go to jail.
Yeah,
Right.
in the beginning of Vietnam,
Yeah.
it was very pro-war. People were into it.
I guess I've heard, especially like in World War I, World War II, like there was a lot of, you're not a man if you don't
Yeah.
go to war and that
Cultural
kind of thing.
pressure.
Yeah, a lot of pressure. Yeah.
Joel Hart says, to quote Tom McDonald, You worry about leaving a better planet for our kids. How about leaving better kids for our planet?
Oh, yeah, that's
mic
a good
drop.
one.
Yes.
I
Mic
should've
drop,
said
Tom
that
McDonald.
one.
Kuya Chris says, hey guys, some people are blaming Trump for all the Asian hate because of the anti-China stuff. What do you guys think? I think it's an excuse from people who haven't been dealing with the actual racial problems in this country. In fact, have been making it worse. When they demonize Asians as white adjacent or actually more privileged than white people, or even coming to the point where just in the past few months, they were like, Asians are white.
Huh.
Then all this stuff happens like, oh, don't look at me. Dude, these people went on racist tirades for years about Asian people. So I don't blame Trump for that. Alex B says skateboarding is such an amazing and skill teaching experience. The camaraderie, relationships, and experiences are character building. I think so. But I think skateboarding's become too mainstream in that it is.
Too mainstream.
Yeah, it's in the Olympics. It's an Olympic sport. So now you've been seeing this over the past decade where it's like kids who have coaches and trainers, and it's like, we want to see 50 kickflips today, and it's just so different from what skateboarding
Establishment.
Yeah, so it's getting to a point where there's still that aspect of skateboarder culture, but I'd be willing to bet with the emergence of park skating is when we really started to see skateboard culture kind of go bad in a sense or lose its soul. There are a lot of people who are like, hey man, times change, and I'm like, oh, I totally get it. Like I have this anecdote about watching the older generation wear baggy pants, then my generation wore the skin tight pants, and then the younger generation wore the flooded Dickies where they're like they didn't go down to their ankles. And I'm like, and I was like, word man, do your thing, feel good about yourself. But that was still there was still soul in that. Now it's like cookie cutter corporate. Now it's like you watch some of these people and it's like, oh man, this is gonna be boring. It's gonna be like,
Burning Man.
Yeah, where's the edge?
Yeah.
It's fine if skateboarding becomes a traditional American pastime corporate endeavor. It used to be if you wanted to skate a certain way, you had to go out in the streets because we didn't have parks. Then parks exploded, and then there's a lot of people now who are like, why skate street? They only skate at a park. It's considered not as like legit to do a trick at a skate park than if you did it in the actual streets because you're like conquering real terrain. But I think we're getting it's coming to the point now where it's just going to be park skating. So like the soul, the original, which maybe is a good thing because there's a lot of kids who act a fool and they'll like fight with cops or fight with security guards. And one security guard got like killed because some guy shoved him and like, it's a whole lot of bad stuff. But, it is what it is, man. We don't own everything forever and sometimes things change. Got to accept it, I suppose. So I'll just keep doing my thing and stay real to myself. Downey Jr. says sex wasn't specifically banned in the UK. We were banned from visiting other houses outside of bubbles. Outdoor meetups are allowed now, and all retail opens on the 12th of April. 0 restrictions from June 21st. A lot of people, no babies. Carl Schneider says, working hard and appreciating what you have worked for is the cure for the disease of communism. People who don't actually earn what they have are riddled with guilt. Vote for government to take care of the poor to ease their own conscience. Golan Stop says, what do you guys think of adoption? I think it's fantastic.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I saw a video Lydia sent me where a chicken adopted kittens.
Yes.
I think that your family is not your blood relatives necessarily, but what you're familiar with, and you choose your family. Even if you feel like you're thrust into what you're born with, you can always find another place to be familiar.
Baby kittens, cats like to be really warm, so they lay on computers. And so Lydia sent me this video where there's baby kittens and there's a chicken, and the guy walks over to the chicken and the chicken stands up and the kittens are underneath it because the chicken's all like, I got to keep these babies warm.
Yeah.
And the cats are like, the kittens want to be warm. When those kittens are going to grow up, they're going to be like,
Little
chicken
chickens.
is my friend. I love chicken, That's right. I love those videos when animals get along and don't kill each other. All right, let's see what we got. Prometheus Prime says, the problem with pro-fam, anti-fam is simply complex. Neo-feminism has swapped the roles of men and women. Our country, I disagree with that, but he says, our country and people are under concentrated attack and their target is the family unit. China is hyper-masculinizing and we are regressive. They didn't swap the roles of men and women. Neo-feminism, for the most part, is erasing femininity. You know what I mean? Telling women to work jobs, freeze their eggs, and just have kids later. They're not going to men and being like, men must be in the home. They're going, women must be in the workplace. Women must be CEOs. There is an advocacy for, well, men can be stay-at-home dads if they want.
Yeah.
But where's the men must be also running the home? the sentiment is not there.
Interesting.
Not at all. So it's all pushing heavily
You know what?
into the masculine.
This is making me think that maybe we actually do live in a patriarchy. They just want us to be like men. They don't want men to be like women. I mean, a little bit maybe, but that makes me mad.
Ryan McDougall says, I'm a 36-year-old single dad of an 11-year-old girl. Having a kid is something you don't know how great it is until you raise your own. Jack the Tech says, it's not about the energy you have now, Tim. It's about it's about having energy 10 to 15 years from now when you're pushing 50-ish and your kid wants and needs you there. Dude, I got energy for days.
He's the Energizer Bunny.
Either I'm a candle burning twice as bright by the time I'm 50, I'll be like,
No.
or I'm going to be like,
I
you
think
know.
there's something
Jittery.
to this is really out there, but like internet video and people thinking about you when they're watching. Because right now, like people are watching Tim's
Yeah.
videos. Thousands and thousands of people are perceiving Tim and thinking about Tim and listening and hearing his. So that energy is like bouncing off our stratosphere into his body.
Think so?
And yeah,
Huh. Interesting. Possibly so.
All right, Troy Bruce.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
I was going to add something. I don't know about you guys' family situations, but another benefit to having kids young that I didn't really think about is having your parents there to help you.
Yes. Good point.
That his grandparents, my son's grandparents, have been there to like babysit and stuff like that. And because I wouldn't trust a stranger with my child, it was really helpful for them to be around. So just something to think about.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Troy Bruce says, 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco upheld a Hawaii law that bans residents from openly carrying firearms without a license that is issued only to those who can show they need the weapon to protect life or property. The line in the sand has been crossed. It may go to the Supreme Court. I believe it will, but whether or not the Supreme Court takes it is another issue. And if they do, the floodgates may be opened and constitutional carry may go nationwide. That would be amazing. Could you imagine if overnight it was just like, no state can ban someone from walking around with a gun. Keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That'd be incredible.
Beautiful.
In many places, particularly like Maryland, you have to prove you need the gun.
Yeah.
I actually
And
not
you
have to
can't.
do that. Yeah.
You can't.
It's very, very hard.
Yeah, you have. So typically they say if you transport large sums of money
Yeah.
or if you have like an active threat against you they know about. But for the most part, they'll just deny you. And it takes like, 6 months or some ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah, you have to have receipts that someone's trying to
Well,
protect you.
To be fair, the Constitution does say the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed only in the instance where the individual has a good reason for having the gun and can prove it to the government. Otherwise,
Oh,
no
yeah?
guns.
I didn't read that.
It's
part.
actually really
Yeah.
small, and people just overlook the text, but it's there.
It's tiny.
Oh.
Tiny. It's in there.
I love the people who are like, but the well-regulated militia part, I don't care. Shut up. You're wrong. Gray Gianico says, just a daily reminder that Trevor still sucks. Yeah.
Does he? Whoa.
Yeah, it's true.
I forgot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were telling me earlier that Trevor sucks.
Yeah, I hate that guy.
yeah.
I don't know who Trevor is.
no
I gotta
idea.
feel
I don't
bad
know
for
who
him.
Trevor is. I don't know who Chris
You're
is.
awesome, Trevor.
This guy,
Aw, thanks,
okay,
Ian.
Trevor, if you're out there, you got a super chat now so that we,
Yeah, we got to set the record straight. Let's go.
All right, let's see. Chad Eldred says, I know you've talked about it being too hard to book some people. Some more bookable names you might consider. Ian Hutchison, nuclear engineer, fusion discussion. Bob Murphy, anarchist economist.
Yes, he's
Gothics.
cool.
Bob Murphy?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll write this down.
He comes highly recommended by Julie Borowski.
Very cool.
Oh, yeah. Dan9S says, maybe I missed something, but when talking about depression, people need to distinguish between situational depression and clinical depression.
Yeah.
Clinical depression doesn't just look like crying and hopelessness. It can be anxiety attacks or numbness. It can also be someone saying they don't feel like going out and they're bored and tired and their legs
Loss
are
of
sore.
interest.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that. Sam Good says, hey, bro, I'm a veteran who has deployed. I'm also pseudo-liberal/conservative. I see amazing from both sides of the voters on the spectrum, right or left. It'll flake both to turn around the world. It'll take both.
Heck yeah, it will.
Yep. Steph MLB says, culture's big if one wants kids. Easy to date, but men of value are hard to find with today's politics and weak men. She says, I'm Latina in med school, but also 27. Given the choice, I give up med for kids. Here is taboo. Why? Many can be doctors, but only I am able to carry on my lineage. Man.
That's a good point.
Jeffrey N. Fraser says, great show, Tim. I would like to see you do a segment on Timcast.com with Pierogi from Scammer Payback about the scams that are happening and what can be done to stop them. Oh, yeah, for sure. That'd be cool. All right, let's see. We'll do a couple more super chats here. Just a couple more. 2 more. Sonny James says, just goes to show you anyone who might protest the state gets shot. Our government is equal opportunity shooters. I'm already seeing the woke crowd run defense for this killing. Well, sometimes, I can't read that part, but I get your point.
Oh, spicy.
Yep, sometimes a little too spicy for YouTube, huh? I just want to say to everybody who gave a shout out to Ian for his birthday, thank you for your super chat and happy birthday,
Ian.
Ian.
Thank you.
And to the people saying Tom McDonald as a guest, we absolutely would love to, but Tom's a very busy guy, so let's see. 2 No Spam says, Julie, I have a cool story. WRT, Julie. With respect to Julie, is that what that means?
With regard to, yeah.
With regard to. About 2 years ago, I bought a signed copy of her book, Nobody Knows How to Make a Pizza. Was quite amazed that she took time to write a note. Go girl. Oh, how very nice of you.
I could do autographed copies too.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. All right, we'll do one more. Bitcoin Hunter says, just had my first son. Congratulations. He is 2 months old, and I can't believe how much my life has changed in just 2 months. Very amazing. Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
We're going to do one more. Aura Karina says, as a single father of a little girl in elementary school, I find it weird that I'm the youngest father around and I'm in my 30s. Crazy times, my friends. Well, hey, to everybody who hung out this Friday night, thank you so much. Make sure you smash that like button before you go. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. I wonder if we're going to break 1 million subscribers because we're very, very close.
I hope so.
Maybe not. I don't know. Hopefully, but we're very close. So probably in the next few days, it'll definitely happen. And thank you all so much for everybody who subscribed. And, hopefully we'll be around on YouTube for a lot longer. If you really like the show, hit that share button. Post the link in other places, let people watch and let them know why you like it and to give it a shot. That really helps. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Timcast. My other YouTube channels are youtube.com/Timcast and youtube.com/TimcastNews. This show is live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And also Timcast.com has a huge, massive library of exclusive bonus segments and episodes where we swear a lot. Recently I did a segment with Jack Murphy where I went off. We were talking about whether or not you should, what you should do in the event of a mugging. And I was very much like, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And if people were armed and could defend themselves, we wouldn't have these criminals in the first place. So it gets a little spicy and a lot of people were commenting. So you might like it. Go to timcast.com, subscribe, become a member, check it out. And Julie, do you want to mention anything before we go?
Sure. You can follow me on Twitter, Julie Borowski, YouTube, Julie Borowski. I don't know. Just Google my name. You'll find something.
You have some books?
I do. I have Nobody Knows How to Make a Pizza, and I also have a new book, Peaceful Porcupine.
And these are libertarian-ish, or how would you describe it?
I don't like to say they're libertarianish because it sounds kind of cringe, like I'm trying to force political ideology on kids. I say they're educational, and they teach kids about morality, especially Peaceful Porcupine. It talks about, don't hurt other people, which is important, whether you're libertarian or not.
Because it'll jam quills into you, and you'll deserve it.
Yes.
Non-aggression principle.
The armed porcupine.
Yes.
Peaceful, but will defend himself.
Yes, that's exactly the point of the book.
There you go.
I think Jordan Peterson talked a lot about the meek from the Bible. The meek shall inherit the earth. And meek wasn't like weak. It was the person with the big sword that chose not to use it.
Oh,
Indeed. I love it.
Similar to the porcupine.
Porcupines, yeah.
or the good the millions of American gun owners who don't commit crimes with their weapons, and the government comes and says,
don't make the news,
we want to take your gun away from you because some crazy guy did something.
Yep.
Nah, man.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you. Hey, thanks again for the birthday wishes, you guys. This is really, really fun. Ian Crossland, you follow me, IanCrossland.net. Get all my socials from there. And I'm happy to see you guys again next week.
Very cool. And again, Ian, happy birthday. I know this birthday was a little bit of a downer for you. I apologize that Russia decided to do this with Crimea today.
I don't blame you, Lydia.
What a cop out. What a jerk. Yeah. Anyway, I'm Sour Patch Lids on Twitter and Minds, and Real Sour Patch Lids on Gab and Instagram. You guys can follow me there. And
before we go, I will read the last super chat from the philosopher. Taxation is theft. Julie is awesome. Thanks for having her on.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much to everybody for hanging out. We will be back Monday, and we'll see you all then.
Bye, guys.